For the people tuned in at home, we'll be getting started in just a few minutes. This is the second lecture that we've done for free. And definitely send a donation, though. You understand? If you want to support this truth, $20 donation to either $ New York Camp. You could also use the super chat feature. You understand? Support this truth. Support these brothers that's putting in this work.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we bring to you a special service by yours truly, Captain Tazaryach. Now I'd like to thank y'all for coming out. The people that's online on the chat, like as I said, like this lecture here is for free, but y'all should be donating, whether it's to the super chat or to the Cash App. If it's a super chat, you can do it right in there. If it's the Cash App, it's NYC Camp, $NYC Camp. Give your donation, support this truth, pay your tithes to the Israelite School of UPK like you're supposed to. That's a commandment, just like not being a homo is a commandment, not eating shrimp, crab, and lobster is a commandment. Paying your tithe is also a commandment. Don't short the Most High of what he deserves, and don't short the priests and prophets that sacrifice their lives for this work. This is a very important job that we do in Israelite School UPK. Big up to everybody that came to the cookout yesterday. Commander Jenny Hanna on down, all the generals, officers, captains, the brothers and sisters. The best part that I always like about the cookouts that we do, particularly in Harlem, is that we feed hundreds of homeless people that day. You know what I mean? We started doing it at the camps. How I came with the thing at the camp, if I could throw a little joke, is a brother Kane saw, Razor called Brother Kane saw us putting the money in the bucket. So because he see us putting the money in the bucket, he said, I need some money for some food. Can we get the money for the food? So, of course, we gave him money out the bucket. But we already have a food drive that Captain Shmawala is establishing. So I told Zakar, since they asking for money for food, why don't we just bring the food we have to the camp? So what we started doing is having the food drive literally at the camp. So while we teaching the truth, feeding them the real knowledge, we can actually feed them. And we made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I underestimate the value of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. My rib would tell you she'll eat that John. It's delicious. I ain't ate a peanut butter jelly sandwich I don't know how long. But a brother got the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. and came back to the table and said, that reminded me of when I was in kindergarten and wanted another one. Like, just feeding people is powerful, you know what I mean? And you got to realize, and that's part of the reason why we do this lecture, because you can hardly get a nickel from the church, let alone a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And when we was at camp, if anybody that was at camp, that pastor came in front of the camp. And when I asked him to show me what y'all doing in the Bible, he ran off immediately, when you should be able to stand on it if you're a true Christian, in quotation marks. So y'all know I've done a lot of these lectures, and I always take pieces of each lecture to formulate the overall topic. Not saying that I don't put no new information, anything like that, but all of these lectures tie into each other. The integration lecture, how to share your man, the miseducation series, the no homo part 1 and 2, making Atlanta straight again, the miseducation of the black woman, a household divided, all of them correlate into everything. So surviving Christianity is the same thing, because everything starts and ends with Christianity. The reason why I say that is because the Christian church, or the leader of that church, is really what would be the leader of the nation. Like, even in Israel, we had a king, but who could tell the king what to do? The prophet or the priest. When David did something wrong, the only person that could check him was a prophet or a priest. When he had that woman that brother killed because he committed adultery, the peons couldn't come to him and say, David, you did something wrong, but the priest could. And who did the king bow down to and repent to? That priest. So when you think about the lives of the community, especially the Israelite or the black community, it starts and ends with our spiritual belief. So that pastor or that priest or that scribe or that seer, even when Rebecca struggled in her room, who did she go to? She went to a seer or a man of the Lord. The man of the Lord is who you went to when you had problems, when you needed help, when you needed assistance. That's who you went to. So now the Christian church claims to be that people. But when you go into that Christian church, you're either getting raped, robbed, murdered, molested, turned into a homosexual, turned into a lesbian, but none of that is fixing you. So, of course, the term surviving Christianity came from the R. Kelly concept, because R. Kelly was doing the same exact thing to the women. That's how I looked at the concept of this lecture, where you had the pastors and the preachers doing nothing but destroying the black community. Even in the time of Trump, you would think Trump would be, I know for me, I was glad when Trump got in office, because I thought that would make my job easier. When we go out there and talk about this oppressor oppressing us and the crimes and everything that he committing, I just knew that it would be easier. But even Trump was able to find pastors to push his agenda. That's amazing to me. That Donald Trump, one of the most open racists, because every president was racist, but one of the most open racist president was able to come in and give us something where the pastor found a way to say, yeah, we got to still roll with Trump. He's going to help us. He's going to do this for us. So that lets you know that there ain't a low enough level that the preacher will go to destroy you. But we still run to him for help. Al Sharpton done reduced himself to the size of, I don't know. Like I seen Al Sharpton, I just knew that couldn't have been Al Sharpton. Y'all seen that one where he was dancing and moving around and everything? And I call it balloon head. His head was all bigger than his body. Like Mike Epps said, Bevo Lottie got more head than he got body. Like I seen that, and I'm like, this can't be Al Sharpton. This can't be. I didn't want to share the video at first because I knew that was not Al Sharpton, but it was Al Sharpton. But we look at these preachers for leadership, and you're supposed to. Like Christ said, all that in Matthew, the 23rd chapter, Christ said, all that they tell you to do, you do, but after their doings, you don't. Because Christ knew that they were hypocrites. They were telling you to do something, but they wasn't keeping the responsibility. So now they have the responsibility of the people, but they're not getting it. So now as I go into these slides, some of it will be just what comes out of my mouth, meaning what I say. Some of it would be what comes on the slide. It'd be like a combination of the two. So now this here I played this, I think, on 4 lectures. And it's important that you get this embedded in your brain, because if you don't know, like when you get molested or when you get raped or you get anything like that, the only way that you can get over it is to face the tragedy that actually occurred to you. And it'd be hard because you don't want to visualize a man violating you. If you was a child and got molested, you don't want to visualize that. But sometimes you got to visualize that so that you can get over it. Because if you don't face what destroyed you and you keep running from it, you're going to run to a vice more than likely. So it'll be a drug, or it'll be another man, or it'll be another woman, or it'll be promiscuity, or you'll be abusive to your kids, or you'll become the predator yourself. So this short video we're going to play is what slavery has done to us. Never let slavery go. Like, don't be afraid of, like, when they tell you you got to throw slavery away, don't throw slavery away. Face slavery. Like, look at slavery and say, okay, this is what happened in slavery. Because what you'll find is that there were a lot of fighters. There was over 200 before they had the so-called emancipation. There was over 250 slave revolts. Like, they won't teach you that in history. They'll just teach you that slaves just came over here, we got our names taken away from us, our back beat, and we just took it. So we think that all we was some punk asses. Like, our men wasn't strong. Our men didn't fight. A lot of them feminist movement women, they'll love to say, well, where was the black man at when we was over here in slavery? But you had over 250 revolts. We fought. There's a lot of ancestors, brothers and sisters fought against this enemy. Now, why did we lose? Because we didn't have the book. We wasn't serving the Most High. So even when Haiti got free for a while, it lasted for a short time, but they didn't do it under the Most High's authority, so it did not last forever. So this here is how this white lady realized what slavery does, and she did. Well, I don't want to jump the gun, so go ahead and play the video, please. The video's not letting it play. So when it says slavery may have altered black people's body chemistry, if I were to play this video for you, what this video would show you is that slavery over time will get embedded in your DNA over time. So now it says Dr. Rachel Yehuda, professor of psychiatry at Akron School of Medicine in Mount Sinai, has conducted a depth of research into epigenetics and the intergenerational transmission of trauma, which is what slavery is. Slavery is a traumatic experience that black people really have never overcome. We've never overcome anything because we've never been allowed to actually fight against that enemy. Because the enemy is who we have to sit next to on a train, who we have to work next to, who we have to worship with. Like, just imagine that. You got to go and get your spirituality next to the same man that destroyed your spirituality. So we've never been able to get over that trauma. It says in layman terms, she is researching how serious incidents of trauma, i.e. slavery and post-traumatic stress disorder, can be passed down through generations in shared family genes. Even when you raise your kids and you teach them to be afraid of cops, their kids going to teach their kids that. Their kids going to teach their kids that. Like Jay-Z said the dumbest thing. I don't know if y'all saw the latest thing. Jay-Z said that we don't respect cops because the father is not in the house. So we don't respect authority. That's what Jay-Z just said. You can look it up. You can Google it right now. Y'all got to stop letting entertainers be your leaders. Jay-Z is dumb. Like, Jay-Z was a high school dropout and a drug dealer. One thing I do know about drug dealers, they know how to count money. So Jay-Z making money doesn't make him intelligent. Doesn't mean he know how to fix black people. He couldn't even, when he was running Rockefeller, he was the only star. If he was such a brother, he would have had his other brothers being just as influential as he was. But he made sure he was influential, nobody else. Jay-Z's a selfish bastard, just like everybody else that's not in here, a selfish bastard. So he says that. Now, here's how you know he's a selfish bastard and hates and is teaching to hate black men. To say that We don't respect authority because the black man is out the house, makes it the black man's fault. But why would he go deeper and say the white man is the one that took the black man out the house so that we don't respect authority? Then that would be the truth. That would be the die-hard truth. Do we not respect authority? Yes, we do not. Do we get loud? Are we raw? Yes, we do not. Is the father out the house? Yes, he is out the house. But how did he get out that house? What was put in place to put him out that house? Let's fix the root of the problem. You can't talk about the results of the problem. You got to talk about the root. So now it says her research has revealed that when people experience trauma, it changes their genes in a very specific and noticeable way. When you go through trauma, it could alter your hormones, especially for you women. Y'all women get abused or get mistreated, the next man gonna get hell. If that next man ain't got some great patience, whatever that previous man did to you is going to get carried on. Even if a woman, sidebar, even if a woman has multiple sex partners, that DNA stays with you. So now you getting Johnny, Dave, Mike, Carl, and Anna. You understand? So now that's who you talking to. You talking to all of them in one because that DNA from all the men she slept with, you're dating them too. And so now you got to try to get rid of that. That's trauma. You understand? So it says, so when these people have children, their genes are passed down to their children. That's why when women are pregnant, they say don't stress them out a lot. Don't stress a woman out when she's pregnant because the result of that child, depending on how traumatized she was, could be passed on to the child that she has. That's all in here. So imagine as them women is getting pregnant by their man that they got to sleep with in secret because if they found out that he was married, they were separating him. And so let's say if they found out that they married, now they separating the father from the mother. When we talk about Denmark Vesey, that was him. Denmark was able to buy his freedom, but he couldn't buy his wife's freedom. So he was able to leave and separate, but they kept his wife. You understand? So now imagine that trauma where you growing up as a mother, you growing up with your children without the father because the oppressor took them away from you. And then that passes down because the kids see when you're stressed. The kids see when you have that problem. All right. It says the abject horrors and brutality suffered by slaves is more than likely to have the same effects on black slavery descendants worldwide. That's why we have to always talk about this. When they sweep that under the rug, they don't sweep no other person's travesty under the rug. They even let Gandhi get revered every year. The only reason they let Martin Luther King get revered is because he teaches you to forget about slavery. And I'll show you why he really wanted to integrate later. You can give me the next slide, Kai. So now, when it comes to Christianity, I wanted to show you that it says roughly 79% are Christian of black people. I don't care about white people. And 77% of Hispanics are Christian. So you could just say we all Christian. Every black, Hispanic, and Native Indian is Christian, period. No matter what. Kemet, they Christian too. Now, when we say Christian, just so you know, so why you say Kemet's Christian? Islam is Christianity too. 5% is Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. It's all Christianity because Christianity's number one philosophy is we can all come together. And they teach that from the youth. When you watch Sesame Street, you're watching Christianity. You watch SpongeBob, you're watching Christian. SpongeBob, the only place a squirrel can go underwater and just squirrel underwater, the lobster, the shrimp, and they all get along. On my way, before I came out here, me and my ribs watching, my daughter's watching cartoons. In the cartoons, in the middle of the ring, they had a lion and a unicorn in the ring together. They wasn't fighting, they was getting along. The first thing my ribs say is that lion would eat that unicorn if it was like real life. They would, except in Christianity. In Christianity, they're going to teach you that they all could just be together, and they can't be together. So we have to give them something that's different. When we go out on them corners, they say we're aggressive because being aggressive is not Christian. And we're not just, and when they actually pay attention to what we're saying, who knows where our aggression is at? Where's our aggression aimed at? Y'all can answer if y'all want. It'd be a little participation. You can just put your hand up. If y'all scared, it's all right. Abadja? Perfect answer. Give him a hand. We're aggressive about the pain, not only that we've been through, but we've never got an answer for. And we're the one people that can't have that aggression. So that's like when they talk about surviving Christianity, I really could have called this leaving Christianity, because that's the first step to surviving it. You don't stay with your child molester. You don't stay with your rapist. You don't stay with the man that murdered you or stole your money. So why should we stay with Christianity when it's done nothing but destroy us? Give me the next slide. So now I'm going to give a little history. This is history of early Christianity. It's beginning and changes. Some of these quotes that I got here are from a good book. Was it a book? What W.E.B. Du Bois wrote. The Soul of Black Folks. It was a book. I say book because I got it in PDF format. But it's this book that W.E.B. Du Bois called The Soul of Black People. So some of these are excerpts from that. So in the beginning, it says what I said already. It says the preacher is the most unique personality developed by the Negro on American soil. A leader, a politician, an orator, a boss, an intriguer, an idealist. All these he is. And that's the truth. Who do they run to when something goes wrong? Even the sellouts. Don't even think whether they're good or bad. When something goes wrong in the Black community, the first place they run to is the preacher. Now, depending on if he's a sellout or not, depending on what he tells you. So usually you get Al, you get Jesse. When they want to push abortion, who do they give you? The preacher. We might have to throw the rappers up in there now because they're getting the rappers now. They got Jay-Z up in the NFL. What does he have to do with any social construct? I can't get over that, the whole Jay-Z thing. Like Jay-Z got hired so Kaepernick could stay fired. Y'all do know that, right? Jay-Z getting hired assures that Colin Kaepernick will never throw a football. If I could sidebar in the sports, this cat from the Colts just retired out the blue. And they thinking about all these other football players that ain't played in 3-4 years. Colin Kaepernick's name don't even come up. But they did hire Jay-Z so he could fix the social construct. So we might have to call them preachers too, because they listen to them. But it says the combination of a certain adroitness, meaning a likability, so to speak. It says with his deep-seated earnestness, because they talk like, you ever watch pastors talk? Even like, well, I ain't gonna say, I don't want to start no trouble today. So like when you see people talk and they do stuff like, when they doing stuff like that, they trying to draw you in like, oh, he's so, look, he's thinking, look at him. He's putting his head down. They're doing all that because they've learned the skill of getting you to fall in love with them by just their mannerisms. That's the earnestness, their mannerisms, the way they talk, because they talk soft to you, because they talk sweet to you. Oh, my sister, I understand what you're going through. Next thing you know, the panties is off or the pocketbook is open. One of the two. So now, that earnestness of tact with consummate ability gave him his preeminence and helps him maintain it. Eddie Long in a full-out homosexual church scandal. And he got up there and said, David, wait, I ain't pick up one stone yet to throw. And when he said, I ain't pick up one stone yet to throw, because you know of the story David and Goliath, you say, well, let me wait for him to throw the stone before I pass the judgment. But he never threw a stone. Never threw a stone. And you know what? You forget that he was supposed to throw a stone because he seduced you. That's the Christian church. But that's the preacher, and that's the power that all preachers have. You destroy the preacher, you destroy Christianity. Now, you have to replace the preacher with something else. That's where we come in. That's why in my short time in the truth, I've seen this, Salakia, my bad. Salakia. In my short time in the truth, I've seen this truth grow like almost double in size, then triple in size, quadruple in size, and it's growing every year because we're killing the preacher. And as we kill the preacher, them brothers and sisters are saying, I've had enough of the lies. I've had enough of being seduced. I've had enough of emptying out my wallet and still suffering. Can you imagine? Like if you came in here, you had to get your bill paid. You're going to pay your tithes, but you know what's going to happen when you can't pay that bill? You can come and ask, and we're going to pay your rent. We're going to pay your car note. We're going to pay your bill. If you're hungry, we're going to feed you. You can't do that in the church. You go to Creflo, you're not going to get that. You go to, what's the Abernathy? What's that cat in Atla Church? What's Pastor Manning? He's not doing that. You have to go where that is. So we kill the preacher, but give you a solution too, which is why you can't be in an organization where you just talk about the problems and not present a solution. So even the Surviving R. Kelly thing, that was cool, but they didn't present no solution for those sisters. Those sisters that got molested, what counseling or anything that they do? Only thing they cared about was defaming R. Kelly. So all I care about is defaming the Christian church, but I can also give you an answer. I can also give you the solution. You can give me the next slide, Cop. So now, by the middle of the 18th century, the black slave. Now, you're gonna walk with me as I give you some points between the beginning of slavery, which is in what's them Israelites that believe we were supposed to be out of captivity? What 1619? August 20th, 1619, the Lord was supposed to come back. Salakia. So I'm gonna walk you from 1600s or the 1500s all the way up till now. So now, by the middle of the 18th century, the black slave has sunk with hushed murmurs to a place at the bottom of this new economic system. Now, those that know me, when you see the term like new economic system, what economic system was the black man supposed to fit in America? Does anybody know the answer to that? Anyone? What black economic system was the black man supposed to, excuse me, what economic system was the black man supposed to fit in America? Shalayah? None. What economic system was made for the black man in America? None. When you get that book, The Black Image in the Minds of White, that got to be one of the greatest books the white man ever wrote in history. When you get that book, he tells you on page 17 that America, on the other hand, was a business from which the black man, the black race rather, was never made to fit into. Now, it's saying in the 1800s, we sunk to the bottom of a new economic system that was unconsciously ripe for a new philosophy on life. Now, remember, this is in the 18th century that they bring in this new philosophy on life. Nothing suited his condition nothing suited his condition then better than the doctrines of passive submission. Where passive, like, you know, like when they say like you passive aggressive, like you ain't really aggressive, you try to sneak your aggression in. So now this is passive submission, where they sneaking the submission in, where you think you're aggressive because you could talk a little tough, but really at the end of the day, it's about getting you to submit to your oppressors. That's your Al and Jesse. All of them talk tough or make it seem like they're doing something great, but it's about getting you to submit. Martin Luther King gave that rousing speech. I've been to the mountaintop. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And he said it with such strong and such fervor, but it was about getting you to let the white man whoop your ass and you done do nothing about it. That's passive submission, right? It said embody the newly in the newly learned Christianity. Pay attention to this phrase right here. I see this, the newly learned Christianity. It's very important you understand why they're saying newly learned Christianity. I'm going to show you as we go through this, because the Christianity that they do today is not the Christianity or Bible or scripture following that we did when we first came to America. So now it says slave masters early realized this. When they found out this new Christianity, they realized this and cheerfully aided religious propaganda within certain bounds. What does that mean? They allowed the religion to perspire. They allowed the religion to grow as long as it was in certain boundaries. You can't tell them they can fight back. That's outside of bounds. You can't tell them they can't be good slaves. That's out of bounds. But servants, be obedient to your masters. That's perfect. You can say that. Sing us a song of Zion. That's perfect. You can sing that. Don't read the Exodus story, though. You can't do that. Everybody with me? So now it says, the long system of repression and degradation of the Negro tended to emphasize the elements of his character, which made him valuable chattel. You know what chattel is? Chattel is like a cow system. But they just take a bunch of cows and they let them eat the grass, let them get fat. They don't eat no meat. That's why you don't get no meat. You get all the milk in the world. Like John 3:16 is a milk scripture. Y'all know that? That's about self-explanatory as you can get. For God so loved the world, they give that milk to you. And they tell you, nah, I don't mean that. But they're not going to give you no meat. They're not going to give you nothing of real or true sustenance to be able to sustain. So then it says, courtesy became humility. Right? Moral strength denigrated into submission. What is moral strength? Giving somebody, when somebody is down, like, you know, the scripture said, brother is born in adversity. When he's dealing with that adversity and his morale is low, another brother will come and build him up. Not no more. You get beat down. Well, we know we can't do nothing about it. We're going to try to fight. We hope we get it, but we might not get it. That's what they teach now. So now it says, and the exquisite native appreciation of the beautiful became an infinite capacity for dumb suffering. The Negro losing the joy of this world because we no longer enjoyed it, which in reality, we've never really enjoyed our time here in America. Not one time. Like we're surviving victims in America. That's all we are. Surviving victims. That's why they put the Negro songs. I wish I had it on the next slide. I might have messed that up, but I know I did. That's why they give us a song and dance. That's why they got like 5 award shows a year. They got the hip hop awards. They got the Source Award. They got this award. All so you can be entertained and you can forget about your problems. Everybody, what about 3:30? They all done came out. They singing and dancing and shouting and running around that church, screaming, hooping and hollering. And they come outside as soon as they get in their car. How am I going to pay this bill? Where's my father at? Where's my mother at? Because the pastor is not giving them nothing to address that right there. A song and a dance is never going to address that. A song and a dance is never going to heal the soul or the spirit of anybody at all. That's why when something happen to white people, them bastards don't sing. They arm up. They arm up. They ready to go to war when something happened to them. The first thing we do is sing. When they had that Dylan Storm, he in the goddamn, when you get locked up, they don't always bring you to the jail. They bring you it'd be like a video thing. And they praying for him, the black people that he just shot up. They praying and singing for him. That's the first thing we do is sing a song. It says, the Negro losing the joy of this world eagerly seized upon the offered conceptions of the next, the avenging spirit of the Lord enjoining patience in this world. It says eagerly seized upon the offered conceptions of the next, because there's more than one conception. So what would they start teaching you? They would start teaching you the glory of heaven. Y'all know what that is? Who know what the glory of heaven is? Where they would teach the slaves that if you be a good slave, you'll make it to heaven. Peter waiting for you at the pearly gates, and Peter naked. The angels, little boys, and all that up there. That's what you waiting. That's what's waiting for you, which is white people. Like, how could you be going through hell with white people here, and then think you go to heaven and the white people is good up there? If I was a slave, I would have said, well, can you have them white people come down here at least? Because if it's heaven up there, then let me get them white people. But you can't. So that was one conception. Another conception is the avenging spirit of the Lord enjoining the patience of this world under sorrow and tribulation until the great day when he should lead his dark children home. This became his comforting dream, his preacher repeated prophecy, and his board's song. Can you give me the next slide, Kadazar? So now, in the beginning of Christianity, when they first was giving Christianity to us, it says some white owners allowed slaves to worship in white churches where they were segregated to the back. Like churches, you come into that church as a black man, they was not letting you sit up in the front. You had to sit in the back. It was like, to me, which I think is better to this day. I wish it was like this. There was always a level of understanding that the white man wanted to make us see. I mean, see, like we don't see it now. Like those in the truth can see where they segregate us, where they'll parade Barack Obama as if he's going to save black people. That's what they give you. But then when Barack Obama is in office, he don't do nothing for you. But while he's in office, he's promising that he's going to do it, but it never shows. And then there's this, where when you walk into that church, when you get on that bus, when you go to that restaurant, there's a clear sign you can't ignore: no colors allowed. Get on the back of the bus. Get in this portion of the church. You can't sit in the front with us. That's better. The reason why that's better is because if you keep seeing that every day, you might be docile, but eventually you're going to want to do something about that, because that's one of the most offensive things that you could do when you're parading God loves everybody to us. So if God loves everybody, why are you the bigot to me? If God's not the bigot, which is what they accuse us of. You know, they accuse the Israelites of being bigots, but they're the biggest bigots that you can find anywhere, because they have been that way since we've been here in captivity. So now, occasionally persons of African descent might hear a special sermon from white preachers, but these sermons tended to stress obedience and duty. And the message of the Apostle Paul is like the white man's go-to. They'll tell you Paul White. You read from Romans 11:1 where he say he is Israelite. They swear Paul is the end all be all. And the favorite verse of everybody that hates the Bible is where it says, slaves, obey your masters. Now, you'll never get that in the KJV. You're only going to get that in the NKJV or the NIV or whatever other books they got that they bastardized from the KJV, which a lot of people wonder why we use that, because that was the last best English version. That's it. Like when they do these new translations, they're not even translating from Hebrew and Greek records. They're just retranslating King James English. There's no need to retranslate English to English. That makes absolutely no sense. The only time you require translation is when there's a language barrier. So if it was going from English to Spanish or English to Russian or whatever language that they speak, it would require it. Now, the real verse, of course, which always cut anybody, doesn't matter what denomination or what they believe. These two verses are important to understanding what slaves obey your masters mean. So now the real verse, of course, is servants, be obedient to them that are your masters. Now, it's not saying slave. It's saying servant. A servant, now this verse ain't talking about that, but just to broaden the word servant, a servant could just be you have a boss and you have a worker. The worker is the servant, the boss is the boss. So be obedient to your boss for whatever he hired you for. Now, that's not what this is talking about. I just want to give an example. So now here it says, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh with fear and trembling and singleness of your heart as unto Christ. Now, that's the only verse that they'll read. And they'll say, see, the Bible said be a slave. The Bible never said be a slave. And the most heaviest part, when you read verse 9 in that same chapter, it says, and ye masters, do the same things unto them. Unto who? The servants. So if the white man wanted to use that verse and say slaves obey your master, then the master has to obey the slave too. So when the slave said stop beating me, he should have listened. Stop raping my wife, he should have listened. Let me keep my kids, he should have listened. So even in their bastardized version, they don't follow what that is. You can give me the next slide, Kyle. So now we often, this part is important. It says we often neglect the influence of the freed man before the war. What is the freed man? Who knows what the freed man is? Anybody want to take a crack at it? Remember, this is interactive. Abadia? Brother who bought his freedom. Why is buying your freedom important? Why was it important? Because you didn't want to be a slave. If you was a slave, you had no control over your life. As a free man, you didn't have as much freedom as the white man, but you was close on your way. And as a free, it's like, sir. Damn right. Say it again, sir. Yeah, Jay-Z. He believes he a free man. He love the white man. Jay-Z is in love. When I saw that album he had, well, on the cover, he had them two Roman white homosexuals. I said, yeah, he fully loved the white man. So now a free man is important because a free man doesn't look at himself as morally destroyed as a slave. And then what he should do as a freed man, look to free other men. That's what everybody should do. That's why Christ said, you do not take your light and put it under the bed. You put it under the bed, it's going to go out. Now, what's heavy about that, when you put it under bed, that means your light going to go out too. That's why you cannot put it under bed. You have to let your light shine for everybody to see so they can be just like you was. That's what a freed man's job is. Like, we're all free in here. What do I mean by free here? Free from the mental oppression that we have from what the so-called white man system has done to us. At one time, we was all bondmen. We was all bondmen to Christianity, Egyptology, Islam, Nubianism, Hinduism, any other ism you could think of that's not the Bible. We was all subjected unto that spiritually. And then we became free. And I don't know about y'all, but that was a joy. When I didn't have to serve Christmas and Thanksgivings and 4th of July's and all that, because you serving that. You literally serving Christmas to the point where you realize you ain't paying bills to buy your kid a toy that they gonna break. Or buy your mama a toy. Imagine a Valentine's Day, your woman be evil to you all year. But on Valentine's Day, you're going to buy something, which she ain't even going to appreciate on the 15th. So on the 14th, she going to love you. On the 15th, she going to go back to hating you. You get free. Now, you have to give that freedom to everybody else. So now, because of the paucity of his numbers and the small weight he had in the history of the nation, like I said in the beginning of the lecture, there have been over 250 slave revolts before the Civil War. To let you know, freed men fought for slaves. Freed women, sir. That's what they estimate in total between the North and the South, sir. Before the Civil War, that's what they estimate, 250. So freed men, freed women fought for slaves. Don't ever let that forget. So now you can become that freed man and that freed woman. So you can fight for your slaves today or your brothers today. So now we must not forget that his chief influence was internal. That sounds like Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourselves together, O nation not desire. That's internal. How can we ever join to other nations when we have no power to even sit at the table? You know why the Arabs could sit at the table with the white man? Because they got power. They got authority. They could tell the white man no. And the only thing they could do is they can go to war, but you know what the Arabs could do? They can bomb back. They can fight back. If we go to that table and the white man say no, what can we do? Besides hope, we tell black people, don't support white business, support black business. You can hope they follow it. We know what black people going to do? They're going to buy chicken. So now it says whose influence was internal, was exerted on the black world, and that there he was the ethical and social leader. I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but the nation of Israel, you are becoming the ethical and social leader. Y'all see the mockery of movies that they make of us? Don't feel ashamed about that. Don't be bothered by that. That is being done on purpose to try to distract from the damage that you're doing to the white world. The only reason they putting us in Barack Obama movies, they got some new movie I seen a preview for with a cat. He like an Israelite Muslim or something like that. He don't want no weapons. Y'all can see he kind of got the vibe of Israel and stuff like that. And then they make it a mockery. I glory in stuff like that because you're hurting them now. Because we're waking them up. Even the entertainers that you see, your Kendrick Lamar's, what's that? What's the Jackson cat? I don't know his first name. Brandon T. Jackson. Nick Cannon got like that feminine turban on his head. I don't know. I'm rocking with Y'all see that turban on Nick Cannon? That don't look masculine to me. I'm sorry. I would rather even an Arab type of turban or something, but that turban looked like something my rib might wear, something like that. Like when a hair needed to stay neat or something, you know, you're a little scared. But even so, like all of that is good. Never get mad and say, oh, they taking our information, whatever, because all that pushes the truth. It all pushes the truth, and it lets the white man know that the nation of Israel is damaging his society. Why do you think they changing up now to where you can't say certain things on social media? That's us doing that. That's us causing them to change what you can say and what you can't say. That's not a terrorist act. That's not no Arabs. That's not no Africans. That's the damage that they see the nation of Israel doing. They don't like it. This is important because we are now being the ethical and social leader. I'm giving you how you survive Christianity. It says the masses of the free man sank into poverty and listlessness, but not all of them. The free Negro leader early rose, and his chief characteristic was intense earnestness. Y'all remember earlier on the earlier slide, it was passive aggressive earnestness. This one is intense earnestness. I love you so much to call a white man the devil. Don't be a drug dealer. Repent. Fix your life. Be a brother. But now I'm saying it calm now, but when we on that mic, we saying that with intense earnestness. That's what a free man does. It says, and the deep feeling on the slavery question. The slavery question is so it was almost like, why is it only us? That's what a free man is saying. And that lets you know free men weren't sellouts like you see today. The free men back then still had a question on slavery. Now, they could have been selfish. Just like when we come into the truth, we could be selfish and just sit at home with our family, Shabbat Shalom, read a couple scriptures and stuff like that or whatever. We could do that. But instead, when we get free, because we got a question on slavery or we got a question on the oppression, we don't sit in the house. We come outside. We do whatever is necessary so that just like somebody before me, like this truth existed before me. This truth existed before a lot of y'all. And y'all learned it because of earnest freedmen. And them earnest freedmen hit them street corners. If I could, that's all One West. When I say One West from 1969, the fruit of One West labors is why this truth is where it's at today. Now, you got other cats that had it. You had other cats that had it. The cat from Demona, Yahweh Ben Yahweh, all of them like that. But everybody should give credit to One West. We're the ones that hit them street corners. Ariel Mashal, Lahab, Kazak Shah, all of them brothers, Yeshaya, all of them were the ones that hit them street corners, and we all owe our life to them. Now, they made their mistakes or whatever. Now, you don't boast in their fall because you could fall. The scriptures say, he that endured to the end, the same shall be saved. Now, you take the lesson from them to say, I'm not going to be like them. But you glory in the fact that as they were freed men, they grew and made you grow. And you understand? That's why even the part when it says the free men sank into poverty and listlessness, but not all of them, that applies to them too. It's a hard job to do this. You got to leave your family. You know, I'm pretty sure, you know, how many of y'all wives complain because you going to camp again? You traveling again. You doing this lecture. You doing that debate. Why don't you just stay in the house with me? Because that, and you can't fault the woman. The woman is a woman. You should expect a woman is not made for war. So she don't understand why you got to go outside and wake black people up. All she know is, nigga, you got it. So if you got it, stay with me and we got it and we good. Because that's all she knows. But a freed man knows it's selfish to not wake up other brothers. Because how good is it to have all of y'all in here, and the only reason y'all know me is because of the Most High. Y'all don't know me because I ain't grew up with none of y'all. And if I walk down the street and we walk past each other, you just be another cat I walk by. It wouldn't be nothing. But thanks be to the Most High in Christ, I was able to wake up, and now we all can wake up and be brothers together. Imagine if millions more did it. And we just got a bunch of people saying Kwam Yashala, a bunch of people calling on the destruction of this place. That would be greater. So to the wives, that's why we do it. All right. I'm going to keep going. Freedom became to him a real thing and not a dream. His religion became darker and more intense. Now they're using the term darker. Why? Because the light is God loves everybody. We're going to join hand in hand. The white Jesus, the white God, that's the light. You put a nigga on top, that's all dark. They do dark with anything black, they do dark. What they call a dark, I said it. The dark age, when King James and all them was running, that's the dark ages. It's dark. And when they tell the history of the dark ages, they tell it like it was just so terrible because they tell it from the white man's perspective. So because he ain't ruling or in power, they say we had these diseases, we was downtrodden, we was destroyed. And then we had the Renaissance. And then the Renaissance, when it becomes white, it becomes great. So now it says the religion became darker and more intense, and into his ethics crept a note of revenge. Why wouldn't you want revenge against your enemies? Why wouldn't you? Everybody requires or wants revenge. As long as Osama lived, America knew that white people would not feel good inside. Even when I remember watching the videos, and I was so envious of white people. When they said Osama was killed, they was parading all through the streets. They was hugging themselves like they was in a Christian church. You know, in the black church, they hug themselves when they talk about Jesus. Like, he been so good to me. So now, them white people is all in the streets hugging themselves. They cheering, and none of them are really the victims of 9/11. What I mean by victims of 9/11, it's not their family member directly that died. But when they see a white person die at the hands of another nation as a terrorist act, and they see the cat that they blaming for it is dead, they feel free. That's how we supposed to feel, but we can't. Because for us, it's been told it's just a dream. It's just a dream to get your vengeance, when it's not. 2 Corinthians 10:4 says the weapons of our warfare is not carnal, but mighty through the Most High and pulling down strongholds. Now, when you keep reading that, it says that the Most High has a readiness to revenge our destruction when our obedience is fulfilled. That's the one thing that's lacking from black people. You want to know why the Lord ain't done it? Because we ain't been obedient to him, because we still in the Christian church. We have to get out of that church in order to get free, period. So now it says, and into his ethics crept revenge, and into his songs a day of reckoning close at hand. His song was damn near like the end of Psalms 137. It said, happy shall he be when he dashed them heads into the stone. They get mad at us when we talk about them white babies are gonna die. I remember I was in a courthouse in 2014. We battled Liberty Place in Philadelphia. For those that don't know, brief story. In Philadelphia, we were speaking in front of this mall called Liberty Place, and they didn't like us speaking. They took us to court, said we was a hate group. And I'll never forget, we in the courtroom, and you got the Jewish judge, so-called Jew, white woman judge. You got the Jewish lawyers. I don't know if our lawyers was Jewish or not. We had our lawyers. And what they would do every time we went to court, they would play our videos. And the video they played this time was Gabalia Allah in Times Square. And in that video, it was a naked white man, not naked all the way naked, but he had his shirt off. He ain't had no shoes on. And Gabalia Allah is just hammering, like, I pray you die, man. I got some special boots to stomp your baby's head into the stone. And then, and then he reading the scripture, Psalms 137. He reading the scripture, happy shall he be when he taketh the little ones to dash them in the stones. And so the Liberty Place lawyers saying, look what they're saying. What they're saying is going to start a race riot. What they're saying is going to start this. This lesson here is why you always stand with the Most High. The scriptures say, even if your ways please the Most High, even your enemies will be at peace with you. As them lawyers are saying all that, the so-called Jewish judge said what they're reading is from the Bible. So they have the right to say what they're saying, because freedom is something that you should stand for and that you should fight for. I was in there, I was like, oh shit, what they gonna say? I mean, it's a raw ass video. I mean, it's straight raw. It's goodbye. I mean, goodbye. I pray you die, man. And like goodbye, y'all is like this short, stout cat, and the white boy just standing there like, why you ain't loving me? It was so hard. And I just knew that was gonna be the one the judge was gonna be against, but the judge stood with it. Always stand with the Most High. You're in front of a judge, gun, it don't matter. You stand with the Most High, you'll survive. That's why it says that. So now the coming of the Lord swept this side of death and came to be a thing to be hoped for in this day. The scriptures say, Christ said, you're supposed to say, our Father which art in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Not no place you die to. Everybody in the Christian church all know the Lord's Prayer. Even cats that don't believe in the New Testament, everybody know the Lord's Prayer. Everybody. But nobody pays attention that Christ said the kingdom will be on earth, not nowhere that you got to die and go to. The white man enjoyed his heaven here. You telling me the only way I got to enjoy my heaven is a place nobody going to know if I'm in heaven or not? If I die and go to heaven, y'all ain't going to know. The Lord don't want his reputation unknown. He wants his reputation known. You see the state of black people? That's part of the Lord's reputation. Because he told us if we served him, we would be above nations. If we didn't serve him, we'd be below. He didn't say you're going to die and be below, because he wants you to see his beautiful work. Now, we can rise out of this and see his beautiful work. That's important, and that's what they knew. They said we could see this in this day. Through fugitive slaves and irrepressible discussion, this desire for freedom seized the black millions still in bondage and became their one ideal in life. This, I would say, will be damn near the birth of what you see in the Israelites. Like the Israelites, you know, we have a history. I don't know if I'm jumping, but, you know, it's all right. In the history of the Israelites, you have like the baby stage. Like I'm going to play the video with Harriet Tubman. They knew that they was Israelites. She had Israelite names. Her brother and sisters, they had Israelite names. They knew where they came from. We'll show some other stuff. And all of that was like, you know, in the book of Daniel said the books would be closed for a while and the books would be opened back up. So now everybody believed that when the books, like we believe because of Christianity, that the Bible is like magic. That you go on there. You ever been to church? How many people been to church? So when you go to church, after they have the whole church, at the end of the church service, they say, anybody want to come up here and be a member? And so when you come up there, the pastor say something like, do you love Jesus with all your heart? Yes. Do you believe he died and saved your sins? Yes. Okay, we're going to bring you in. What's your name? My name is such and such. And then they say somebody second, and then deacon usually say second, and they say, okay, come in, you've been saved. And you're supposed to believe that from that moment, you're saved. That's it. But then you go outside to that shit out there. And then what happens? That's a damn pipe dream. That's not reality. It requires an action. So thank you, sir. It requires an action. So now the ideal in life is to strive for the truth until death. So now as you open up them books, we start learning. Not like the way the Christian pastor tells you where it's like magic and you think you're just going to get it, but you just start learning through what? Who knows how you learn? Shalom. That's true. How do you learn biblically? Who knows how do you learn biblically? Studying. The scriptures say, study thyself to be approved. Nothing is magic. Peter and them was doing John's baptism when Christ left. And these niggas rolled with Christ. Rolled with Christ. He told them the Holy Spirit was coming when he left. The Holy Spirit come, they still dipping cats in water. And then when he seen the Holy Spirit, what did he say? Then remembered I. That's how the truth was when it first came out. When the truth first came out, his brothers knowing that they Israelites, but they ain't getting it all the way. And they didn't have to get it all the way. They just have to keep fighting and keep studying. I've been in class since 2009. I've been in class. I ain't missed a class. I'll be in class until Christ return. Because you're always going to learn. It's always going to be something that you have to strive for. And the minute you stop having class is the minute you'll fall off. The minute you think you're above studying some scripture, the minute you think you're above being a brother, you'll fall off. And then you'll be a story we talk about, man. Y'all see Tazaryach used to be great, man. He used to do some things, man. You seen that nigga? I seen that nigga on the street asking for money. That's what you'll become. As great as the Most High can make you, he can also take you low if you decide not to serve him. You got to remember that. Give me the next slide. During the 1770s and the 1780s, black ministers began to preach to their own people. So in the beginning, the white churches used to let them come in, but they used to have to be in the back. But the pastors say, or black people say, no, I don't want to learn that way. You know, niggas want to shine anyway. They want VIP. They want special placing. You know, we think we, like when it say we the salt of the earth, black people believe that. A black bum think he's the shit. Straight up. So now we ain't want to be in the back no more. We want to be in the front. So in order to be in the front, we got to teach to ourselves. So now it says black ministers began to preach to their own people, drawing on the stories, peoples, and events depicted in the Old and the New Testaments. The first story, you know, they're going to go to, the one story they would never want you to read, which is the Exodus story. The Exodus story is so powerful. You know, the children of Israel didn't have to lift one finger against the Egyptians. Not one. How did they get out? Who knows how they got out? What was the start of them getting out, Abijah? They prayed to the Most High. The scriptures, Exodus 2:20-22, says they cried to the Most High. They didn't cry to Pharaoh. They didn't cry to, I don't know what other them homosexual cats they got in their group. I don't know who else that could be. But if I was to equate it to today, we didn't cry to the councilman, to the senator, to the governor, to the mayor, to the president. We didn't cry to none of them because they recognized that they were the ones putting them in that position. So they're doing that on purpose. So they're not going to free me. So they went to a power that was greater. And when they prayed to the Most High heard them by reason of bondage. And then he set up Moses. Moses didn't lift a finger. You know, all Moses told Pharaoh was, let's go serve the Most High for 3 days. We'll come back. We'll come back and continue building up your nation, building up your kingdom. And Pharaoh said, that's not good enough. Why should I respect your God? That's why they don't respect us today. They'll never let us serve the way we want to serve because they know the minute that they let us, like what Pharaoh knew, if I give them 3 days, they're going to take 4. They're going to take 5. They're going to take 6 because they're going to get stronger because when you separate from anything that's oppressing you to get stronger, the more you practice separating them, the stronger you're going to get away. Imagine you're in an abusive relationship, male or female, don't matter. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental or whatever. And then you start slowly getting yourself away. In the beginning, you might not have the strength to walk away. You be like, nah, they got such a hold on you. Whether they got your mental, whether you're afraid to get your ass whooped. And then imagine one time you fight back. Now you still got whooped, but you fought back a little bit. You'll get more strength to fight back. And then you'll get more strength to fight back. Like that movie, What's Love Got to Do with? I'll use that as an example. When Angela Bassett fought Lawrence Fishburne in that limousine, she got her ass whooped, but she fought. And so she put some licks in on her. And as she put them licks in on her, she got stronger. So that in the metaphor, that's the exact same thing. So Pharaoh knows if I give them 3 days, they're going to get strong. And then they're going to want forward. Then they're going to get away. And then they're going to get separate. And so he said, no, I ain't doing that. But that's not what the Lord wanted. So then he sent Moses. Moses didn't lift up a finger. Moses just said, let my people go. Well, I don't want to say it like that because that's the gay white version. But Moses went there and said, the Lord's going to do this. He's going to send this plague, send that plague, send that plague, send that. The Lord did all that. All Moses did was stand with the Most High. And what that did, freed us. That's the same thing we're supposed to do today. So now, it says, no story spoke. Oh, I pretty much ran it down what I was going to say next. No story spoke more powerful to slaves than the story of the Exodus. With its themes of bondage and liberation brought by a righteous and powerful God who would one day set them free. The God that they was teaching was not the God that they teach about today. This was the true God. This was the true God that redeems his people. It says a few black preachers in the South succeeded in establishing black churches, one of them being Andrew Bryan. I wanted to bring out, like we know the Nat Turners and the Denmark Vessies and stuff like that. I wanted to bring out a few different ones just to give you better names. There's another brother, David Walker. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more extensively because of what he did. But it's important to know these names because they will let you know that slavery is not just like 4 or 5 pages of history. Slavery is a deep-rooted page, which is a lot of pain, a lot of non-victories. But as you can see, as they start fighting, as we go or come up in this truth, we're going to have our pains. So the cops going to come and shut your camp down, or the cops going to come and lock you up. But it's our job to not stop fighting like they eventually did. Imagine if, as these brothers is dying, fighting for our freedom, we just never stop fighting. We're just always at war. The Arabs, that's why they get respect. Like I don't like Arabs, but I respect that they'll fight the white man with a goddamn rock before they'll join him like that. They'll fight him. We supposed to be the exact same way and fight him. All right. So now it says by Andrew Bryan, it says the white community did not like that there were a lot of African-American people gathering for Bryan's services. Why y'all think that is? Who know why they did think that is? Who could take a guess? How's how? Nah, you thinking today. You ain't worried about that money back then. About you. That's it. Molding them to what? To not be slaves. You can't have that. Andrew Bryan became a threat. Once you tell black people you are the people of the Bible, the Exodus story will be your theme. Because they ain't always say they was Israelites, but they would say we gonna get free like the Israelites. Even Marcus Garvey said that. As he joined us to the Irish, he joined us, the white people, too, with that goddamn green. But even he said, we gonna get free like the Israelites. Everybody read them records and knew we would get free just like them. Then it says, the slave masters did not want their slaves listening to Bryan because they believed that he was plotting a rebellion. And you can't have that because they want to have control of their slaves. So they will let you teach the slave as long as what did I show y'all in the beginning? As long as it was within certain bounds. As long as it was within certain boundaries, they would allow you to teach it. But if you taught anything that sounded like rebellion, you couldn't do it. Which you might as well X out damn near all the Bible. Because all the Bible is about being against your enemies or us falling to our enemies because we left the Most High and then getting redeemed. It says the slaves that did attend the services was whipped, shackled, hanged, beat, burned, and imprisoned. That's how you know they was teaching the truth. When you get oppressed out there teaching the truth, just know it's because you're teaching the truth. When you get heckled, when you get laughed, we get called, we bugging me out. We get called so many names. Power Rangers. I don't get the whole Power Ranger thing though. Because they don't even have a cape. The Power Ranger suit, they even have a cape on there. They don't have a cape. They don't have none of it. It's just a suit. I don't get the whole Power Ranger thing. But we get called so many names. We go to jail. We get locked up. We get falsely accused. We get robbed. We get all these things done to us. But we still stay there. And we have to. It says Bryan was accused of plotting a rebellion, so he was beaten and they threw him in jail because he wanted to plot and rebel against the so-called white man. Give me the next slide. In the late 18th and 19th century, thousands of Americans, black, enslaved, and free, were swept up in the revival known as the Second Great Awakening. That Second Great Awakening, because like I said, there was over 250 slave revolts. And these slave revolts would travel through each plantation, whether it be word of mouth. You know the whites was transporting slaves from different places, so they would just spread that word of mouth. That's why even Denmark Vesey's rebellion was not just on the plantation he was with. It was spread all throughout because of word of mouth. So it says in the South, the religious fervor of evangelical Christianity resonated easily with the emotive religions traditions brought from West Africa. Don't be afraid. I know when y'all see Africa, y'all like, all right, Tazaryach, he about to bring us into Africa. West Africa, you should never be afraid of West Africa because that's where we was. When you look up on the maps, it say land of Judah in that region of West Africa. So when I read brought from West Africa, I don't read African booty scratcher, putting our face in the cow's ass or cutting my daughter's clitoris or anything like that. What I read is we kept our records of being Israel. So when you come over here and you hear them songs, that's why Harriet Tubman and them knew that they was from the tribe of Ashanti, for example. Not saying that every Ashanti was an Israelite, of course, but of course we know we was in that region, so we came from that area. So when it's saying brought the traditions from West Africa, that's talking about our culture. When you look up the slave names, we had a lot of those names with Israelite names on there. So that's all that we brought was our traditions from West Africa. So don't be afraid of the term West Africa. It's not a big deal. All right. Just when somebody try to tell you a straight up African is an Israelite or anything like that. All right. It says forging a unique synthesis. Slaves gathered in hush harbors, aka they would go out in the woods and study, or they would be in the cave somewhere and study. I remember General Hyman used to always tell us or teach that them slaves would put them bandanas on their head, go up in them woods, and then teach how we gonna get out this captivity. Or teach how we got to serve the Most High. Teach that we the children of Israel. That's what they were doing in the 18th and 19th centuries. It says, for heartfelt worship, which stressed the deliverance from the toil and troubles of the present world, and well, they got a little Christian here, and salvation in the heavenly life to come. Now, when you see this part right here, this is the creeping in of the second form of redemption that I told you. I remember it said the conceptions of the life that was to come. One conception was heaven here on earth. The other conception was this that they was teaching. And again, don't get mad at them for teaching this. Like when you read history and you see about them cats that was bringing out slave revolts and they're teaching this part, they didn't have the knowledge that we had. They had enough knowledge to know to love black people and get them free. And that was enough at the time. Keep going. Most of the enslaved lay outside of the institutional church. Like right now, technically, this could be considered what you would call a church. A church is just when people are gathered together in the Lord's name. That's what a church is. It's not the steeples and the big high erected places that they erect over there. But what we would teach wouldn't be in a white church, because we knew that the white church was not for us. And the only way we could learn our spirituality is to be separated from the ones that was giving us a false spirituality. In the 1830s and 1840s, Southern churchmen undertook an active campaign to persuade plantation owners that slaves must be brought into the Christian fold. This will mark the change here. I'm sorry. I need a laser or something next time so I don't mess up because I don't want y'all to not see. So around here is where you start seeing a transition, because as the white owners is seeing how we're being rebellious from that Bible, and they're seeing the power in that Bible when it's properly taught. It says the Southern churchmen undertook an active campaign to persuade plantation owners that slaves must be brought into the Christian fold. This meant that the church had to be carried to the plantation. Aided by denominational missionary societies and associations, plantation missions became popular institutions. So as they see us outside the church, but they see we worshiping the Most High, they say we got to get them in that building. We have to get them in there so that we can institutionalize. Like church is damn near like a prison. In the prison, you don't get fed the proper food. You don't get fed the proper food. You don't get no real rest. You're controlled when you can go in, when you can go out. That's what the church is. You're not getting fed the proper food that can actually feed you spiritually. So you come out just as destroyed as when you went in. You do not get free. You do not get no redemption. It says, but missionaries recognize that Christianity would not appeal to all enslaved blacks. That's what the white man always know, that the white man can't be the face of whatever it is he's trying to give you at all. If you take 2019, I said this at camp yesterday, Roger Goodell and them knew that they couldn't make a white man, a white face, make you forget about Colin Kaepernick. So they gave you Jay-Z. Made y'all forget all about Colin Kaepernick because Jay-Z rap real good. You let some people tell that lie that he's the greatest rapper. It's a lie. I said that on purpose. Shout out to Tazaryach, Salaki. Anyway, so now they said that Christianity wouldn't appeal to blacks. This is in the 1800s. Remember, we're talking about surviving Christianity. And remember, Kemet or blackity blacks, Muslims, 5%ers, all try to tell you that the white man gave us this book. Or the white man gave us this, or the white man gave us Christianity, but we didn't want to accept their Christianity. We celebrated or worshiped the Most High outside of the Christian church. So the white man had to put something in place to bring us into that Christian church, which we'll find throughout this lecture. So it says, he who carries the gospel to them, this is what they were saying about when they try to bring Christianity to them. He who carries the gospel to them discovers deism, skepticism, universalism. Why do you think they see skepticism? Whenever a white man come talking to me, I remember I did this debate. Vocab called into the show one time, right? We doing a debate on the show, and it was going pretty cool. And then Vocab did the one thing a white man can't do to me. He gave me a compliment. As soon as he gave me a compliment, it was a wrap. Because when I hear that compliment, I hear this nigga trying to kill me. Like when he gave me that, he said something like, "You'd be surprised, Tazaryach, I really like you and listen to." And as he's saying it, he don't know. He just made my blood just start curdling the minute he gave me that, because now I'm like, why is a white man complimenting me? You understand? So now, as the black people is already learning the Bible, so why you come and giving me this white version of Christianity? Like, what's your angle? What's your agenda? That's why they had the skepticism. It says all the strong objections against Christianity, objections which were considered peculiar to white Christians. Why is that? Why y'all think it's peculiar? Y'all should know that. You Israelites should know this answer. Why do you think it's peculiar when a white person try to give you Christianity and you reject it, even though you're reading the Bible too? About you. That's true. Give me more. What does it say? That's true too. Give me a little more. Who want to tell? Anybody else want to take a shot at it? Don't get discouraged. I'm gonna read it again. He who carries the gospel to them discovers deism, skepticism, universalism, all the strong objections against Christianity, objections which were considered peculiar to white Christians. So now imagine, Hazard. Okay, everything that y'all saying is right. If I could just add, when white people give Christianity to everybody, they all accept it without question. But they're coming to you, and you reading the Bible too. You love God too. So why won't you love them? The white man will never understand anybody not loving him, because he don't have that level of understanding or compassion unless it's something that affects them. If something affects white people, he want all the compassion in the world. But when it comes to him, he can't understand how you can't love him, even though he's killing you. It's like a gentleman. Come. That's exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And they can't understand. Like I was telling them the general story. I'm at the bar. I'm in Florida for my slavery. And I'm at this bar. Me and a co-worker, he's a black guy. I don't go to lunch with white people ever. They say, "Hey, Tyree, I ain't even say my slave, but hey, you want to go to lunch with us?" Nah, I got something to do. I got to call my wife. I got to go to Walmart. I got to do something. I don't go to work. I don't go to lunch with white people, man. So, but me and my co-worker, we at the bar at Wild Wings. We had the bar, white guy come up, and they got Sports Center on there. They talking about football or something like that. And the white guy says something about football, about Ben Roethlisberger from the Steelers or something like that. And I said, "Oh yeah, that's interesting," or whatever. He said, "Hi, my name is Paul," or whatever his name was. And he puts his hand out to shake my hand. I said, "I don't shake white people's hands. I don't do that." And when I said I don't shake white people's hands, so he take his hand back, but then he spent the next hour trying to convince me that he's different from other white people. So he started telling me about his black girlfriend. He told me he grew up with Muhammad Ali. I said, "You grew up," and he looked young. I said, "You grew up with Muhammad Ali?" He said, "No, my grandfather." I said, "So why are you lying?" Which further let me know, don't shake a white person's hand. So what I felt is the same thing they felt about white Christianity. And it's the same thing we should all feel about white Christianity, which is what the Christian church is. They can put a black face, African face, Chinese, Japanese, Arab, any face, that's white Christianity is what that is. And it has nothing to do with the Bible at all. It says, So I'm gonna keep reading. What considered peculiar to white Christians who were preaching obedience to your masters. That's why I was peculiar too, because what they was pushing was be obedient to your masters, no matter what. But then you're looking at the masters whooping ass on everybody. So you want me to be obedient to the man that's gonna kill me, whether I do what he like or don't. Yeah, no, they was raping black women, even when the black women was doing what they say. Killing black people, even when they was doing what they say, separating families when they was doing what they say, and you want me to obey that? That's what they knew in the 1800s. You give me the next slide. Black ministers took to the pulpits to speak out against slavery. So we still fighting against white Christianity, against slavery, and warned that any nation that condones slavery would suffer divine punishment. That's also how you know when you look at your Denmarks, your Nat Turners, the Stone Revolt in South Carolina, the other cat, Andrew, that we read about earlier. When you read about all of them knew that we would get out of this through divine judgment. Even our Gadite brothers, the Native Indians, what did they say in the Lost Tribes in Promised Land? It'd be divine judgment against this place. Everybody knew that about the so-called white man. Its former slave, Frederick Douglass, challenged Christians to confront an institution that violated the central tenets of Christian faith. Because even the white Christianity shouldn't be killing black people. Even the white Christianity shouldn't be enslaving nobody. Even the white Christianity should be having all of us as equals. When they say in John 3:16, for God so loved the world, you got to ask the white man, well, where's your love? If you giving me your Christianity, because that's their number one verse. Where's the love for me? If we're all equal, where's the equality for me? They don't give that to us. And that's why Douglas said we should challenge it. And it said, including the principles of equality before God. Now, technically, or not even technically, there is no equality with the Most High. The Most High knows how to deal justly with everybody. There's no equality among men, among families, among nobody. If your family is big, you're going to get more than the family that's small. Equality is not the big family gets the exact same as the little family, because then another family is not going to get it. You have to know how to judge righteously in all things. So now it says in 1829, when I read this, now I have a lot of he takes up a couple of slides, this guy, David Walker, right? And he said a lot of real talk. I mean, a lot of real talk, which we're gonna get into. In 1829, African-American abolitionist David Walker issued his famous tract, Appeal to the Colored Citizens of the World, right? I'm sorry. Urging slaves to resort to violence if necessary. Now, again, violence is never going to be the answer at the end of the day, because this is a spiritual war. Now, you can defend yourself. Please know that, right? We're not Christian. You know, you ain't going to beat us, and then we're just going to say, well, God wanted that to happen. He ain't want that to happen. It said, urging slaves to resort to violence if necessary. He, too, warned of a divine punishment. It said, and this is what he said. This is what I mean, like, they were babies. Like, he's an old man. They were babies in the spiritual aspect, but they were right of what they said. This is what he said, God rules in the armies of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. His ears continually open to the tears and groans of his oppressed people. This is what he's saying in the 1800s about the Most High. You give me the next slide. David Walker's appeal, arguably the most radical of all anti-slavery documents, caused a great stir when it was published in September of 1829 with its call for slaves to revolt against their masters. Now, I don't know if I have this in the slide, so I'll just say it ahead of time. David Walker was a cat that got his freedom. He, again, freed men fight for their brothers. Always remember that. So now, as a freed man, he had a clothing business. This article that he wrote, he would put in his garments and he would give it to the black men that was fighting in the military. So when the seamen would come into his coast, and they come to his store, he would put it in their pockets so they would get the pamphlet of what he's talking about. He would make sure that truth was pushed all throughout the military, which is interesting because we was in the military then, just like we're in the military now. And he would push that agenda, and that's how they found this and discovered this, and they eventually killed him. So now it says David Walker, a free black originally from the South, wrote. These are all the quotes that he wrote. Well, not all of them, but some of them. If I'd have did all of them, the whole lecture would have been this. So now it says, they want us for their slaves, and they think nothing of murdering us. Therefore, if there is an attempt made by us, kill or be killed. That's what he said. This ain't Martin Luther King. This ain't Booker T. Washington or nothing like that. Y'all know Booker T. Washington sold us for jobs. In Atlanta, when them riots and all that started, he sold us for jobs. We are like cattle to everybody. Even like in that parable when it says the rich man and the poor man, when the poor man just wanted to eat and it said moreover the dogs came in swords, like we are destroyed not by just the other nations, we're destroyed by black leadership too. So now it says they want us for slaves, and they think nothing of murdering us. Therefore, if there's an attempt made by us, kill or be killed. And believe this. This is so heavy. I love this part. He said, and believe this, that it is no more harm for you to kill a man who is trying to kill you than it is for you to take a drink of water when thirsty. Good. Give him a hand if you could. You heard what he said? And that's real talk. How could if a man is trying to kill you, how could you even fathom nothing but defend yourself, even if it means killing him back? That is the pure God-given right to defend yourself. That is just, right? It says the goal of the appeal was to instill pride in its black readers and give hope that a change someday would come. It spoke out against colonization, a popular movement that sought to move free blacks to a colony in Africa. Of course, he had to back to Africa. Again, I said they were babies. He don't know no better. It's all right. It says America, Walker believed, belonged to all who helped build it. Who built America? A white man never built America. That never think the white man established 125th Street. That was black people. Never think he established Chattanooga, Tennessee. That was black people, or Hispanics, or Native Indians. We built this entire place. And I know I always say black. For those, y'all should know this by now. When I say black, I'm talking about all 12 tribes, but I'll try to make sure I include all y'all. But when I say black, because I'm light-skinned, that Cuban brother be darker than me. Well, you know what I mean? So that's how I feel when I say that. It says, I'm sorry, I believe to all that helped build it. He said he went even further to stating America is more our country than it is whites. And that's a true statement. It says we have enriched it with our blood and our tears. You got to add our bones. You got to add the graves. You got to add everything, our money. Everything that we have has went to building and making America run like Dunkin' Donuts. How about that? I milk everything, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. He said he then asks, will they drive it from us, from our property and our homes, which we have earned with our own blood? Meaning, can we, even though you got us on these plantations or try to take us off these plantations, if we establish something of our own, you're going to drive us from that too? Who knows the answer to that? Yes. Every black city we try to establish, they tear it down. But white Christianity is God is all love. If Christianity was Christianity, we build our cities up and they would let them alone. They wouldn't touch them. But Christianity is a lie. The next slide. Having traveled over a considerable portion of these United States, and these are all things that David Walker said that I'm going to read. Having traveled over a considerable portion of the United States and having taken the most accurate observations of things as they exist, the result of my observations has warranted the full and unshaken conviction that we, the colored people of the United States, are the most degraded, wretched, and abject set of beings that ever lived since the world began. Like that's what this slavery is different than like any of the other slaveries that we could have ever been in. Like Isaiah 47:6, when the scriptures say, I was wroth with my people when I put them into your hands, but thou showed them no mercy. The white man has been a merciless monster to blacks and Hispanics. You would think at the lowest state that we're in, like if you was to go from here to here, like we like all the way down here, and you would think he would just leave us alone and let us at least get to right here. He might not want us to get all the way to the top, but at least let us get like above ground or something like that. He let every other nation do it, which, like General Q said earlier, it's spiritual, because Esau would never let Jacob get anywhere. He'll love the other nations, though. He let Moab or the Chinese come in and do their thing. Let the Africans come and do their thing. If I could sidebar about them hey, put your phones on mute, please, Baba Kashaw. So now, that's please for those that don't know. I went to, y'all know I got my fourth dimensions and stuff outside, if I could shameless plug real fast. Now, it goes with my story, but I got them outside if y'all want to get them. I was going to the spot to get, to re-up on the oils and stuff like that. So there's this cat named Shabazz. I didn't know him. I know his name now, but I didn't know his name at the time. He was walking in front of me. So he goes in, and then I walk in. And so he says, oh, what's going on? I see you on the YouTube or whatever. So we start chopping it up. So as we chopping it up, he said, man, I just came back from Africa. He said, I was in Egypt for a year and a half, and all I was called was nigga when I was in Egypt. He said, I tried to get some shea butter from the African brothers. I forget which, it wasn't Egypt, but it was someplace else in Africa. And he said, all I was told was that you niggas is lazy in America. So now y'all can go to Africa if y'all want to. But the brother was over there for a year and a half and did not enjoy it at all, because they know that there's a difference between us. We have to, like Zephaniah 2:1, like even if, let's say, if you want to call yourself African and you see the Africans ain't love, at least you should say, let's get together with ourselves over here first. Before you can even present an African argument to me, gather the black people together first. I guarantee you, once you gather us together, you'll never call yourself African at all. The reason why you want to call yourself African is because you want to be attached to something, because being black is not good. They make you believe being black is the worst thing on the planet, or being a Puerto Rican is the worst thing. Like, you ain't got no history other than a rich port. You ain't got no history other than being a savage if you're a Native Indian, a wetback if you're a Mexican. They won't give you your true history. And when you go into your true culture, you'll see it's the most richest thing you could ever have. That's why everybody has that Bible. That's your treasure. And you should keep it and be selfish to yourself. I'm all selfish. When it comes to that book, when it comes to Israelite, when it comes to my power or my God, I'm selfish. I ain't giving him to nobody. He told me not to give him to nobody. So now they tell us, now this is important right here. I mean, General Hyman taught one of these sections, I'm gonna say, maybe in like 2012, a class he taught about this. And I remember trying to find the information on it, and then to hear this cat say it was interesting. He said, they tell us of the Israelites in Egypt and the Helots in Sparta. Yeah, I know that movie 300. Niggas like to always think they was the 300 or they was the Spartans. We wouldn't be the Spartans, but we would be the Helots, is who we would be. And I remember General Hyman teaching that and me not finding enough information on it. But it says they tell us of the Israelites in Egypt, the Helots in Sparta, of the Roman slaves. All three of them were Israelites. Of the Roman slaves whose suffering under those ancient and heathen nations were in comparison with ours. Under this enlightened and Christian nation, no more than a cipher, or in other words, those heathen nations of antiquity had but little more among them than the name and the form of slavery, meaning their slavery doesn't compare to our slavery, because they was allowed to live and their families wasn't separated, their children wasn't separated or nothing like that, but ours was. So you can't compare the two. It says, while wretchedness and endless miseries were reserved, apparently in foul, to be poured upon our fathers, ourselves, and our children by Christian Americans. Y'all see, this is what they were saying in the 1800s, and what they recognize as you trying to give us Christianity, you're murdering us in the name of God loves everybody. How do we get murdered under God loves everybody? No other nation. What Africans get oppressed, or Chinese get oppressed, or Japanese, to the extent that we get oppressed? We get profiled. If the Arabs supposed to be the #1 terrorist, why they don't get profiled? We get profiled. Give me the next slide. He says, I call upon the professing Christians. I call upon the philanthropists. I call upon the very tyrant himself to show me a page of history, either sacred or profane, on which a verse can be found which maintains that the Egyptians heaped the insupportable insult upon the children of Israel by telling them that they were not of the human family. Why is he saying that? Because what did they say we were? monkeys. So what he's saying is, show me where the Egyptians called us monkeys. That's what he's saying. This sounds like a camp speaking when I read it. Like we be at camp, it's like no other nation was this cruel. That's what he's saying. He's saying, show me a page in history that can compare to this history. It says, can the whites deny this charge? Have they not, after having reduced us to the deplorable condition of slaves under their feet, held us up as a descending originally from the tribes of monkeys or orangutans? Then he says, oh my God. This is what he said. As Mr. Jefferson, talk about Thomas Jefferson, declared to the world that we are inferior to the whites, both in the endowments of our bodies and our minds, it is indeed surprising that a man of such great learning, combined with such excellent natural parts, should speak so much of men in chains. I mean, it's easy to talk about a nigga when he locked up. That's what he's saying. I'm trying to break it down to y'all in real time. And he's gonna say it even more. He says, I do not know what to compare it to unless it's like putting one wild deer in an iron cage where it will be secured and hold another by the side of the same, then let it go and expect the one in the cage to run as fast as the one at liberty. You understand what that's saying? He's saying, take one deer, put him in a cage, take the other deer, let him free, and say on your mark, get set, go, and then expect them to do the same. How can you do that when you have one in the cage? That's us in America. This is what he's saying in the 1800s. This is why he's saying we shouldn't be Christians. Now, what is he saying different than us? 200 years later, 300 years later, nothing. But they wouldn't listen to him, just like they don't listen to us. That's why you have to keep pushing it. I remember when I first came in here, there wasn't New York like this here. I had to go to Philly. And it was just me. Then it was Shemawala. Then it was this brother. Then it was that brother. It's always start out with one. And it's easy to not have the fortitude or the strength or the faith. Like Hebrews 11 chapter says, faith is the evidence of things not seen, of things hoped for. So you be hoping I can get a camp in my city. I can get a school in my city. But never in your brain does it make you think, I need to make that camp in my city. I need to make that in my school. So I got to sit here and have phone. You know, before they had like this internet, it used to be phone classes was over the phone. I used to do a class with a brother in Hawaii over the phone every Sunday. And then Tazaryach came to the class. Before we had all this fancy internet and stuff like that, or used to have to find the information by actually going to the library and getting it. Now we say something about this cat here. All of y'all could pull your smartphones out and say, oh, there you go right there. And look at him right there. But the information wasn't that easy. So your faith had to be strong. But it's supposed to be, because the odds is stacked against us, but it's not impossible because we have the Most High. So now it says the whites have always been unjust, jealous, unmerciful, avaricious, and bloodthirsty set of beings, always seeking after power and authority. The white man's bloodlust will never die. That's all he loves is blood. That's why he's made in the fashion that he is, as far as being red and hairy all over like a garment. You can give me the next slide. I want to say Harriet Tubman was another one. So I gave y'all him, Andrew. I talked about Denmark. I think we know pretty much everything about Nat Turner. Like I said, there was over 250 slave revolts that you can go and look up. You got the Stone Revolt. All of them failed. Most of them failed from our own people. Just like a lot of stuff fails from our own people. Now, how many people here go to camp? Who fights y'all the most? Our own people. It be our own people. And listen, if you get the blaze on a white person, you know who hug them away? A black person. Yeah, every time I'm up there, I'm getting the white man. I'm getting them. And then here come a black person. Come on, you ain't got to talk to him. Y'all heard the Patriots Day, General Hyman video with that white broad? The black woman. Listen, General Hyman will be blazing on that white woman right now. To this day, right now, literally, that black woman came. We'd have 5, 7, 8 years of just, we loved you, we died you. Here comes somebody saving the white woman. That's sad. So now Harriet Tubman, I like to bring her out because surviving Christianity starts with knowing who you are, which we all were Israelites. So this is just a brief history. Harriet Tubman became known as the Moses of her people because even she was great in her being a freed woman. She did not forget her slaves, her brothers, her sisters. And so she fought. like a lot of sisters fought, a lot of brothers fought, just like a lot of sisters is with us today. A lot of brothers is with us today. It says Harriet Tubman became the Moses of her people due to her contributions in facilitating the Underground Railroad. What is often not taught regarding Harriet is that she was given a Hebrew name at birth. Her whole family, her brothers, all of them had Hebrew names. Some was, God damn it, Benjamin or Bunyamin. They all had Hebrew names. Harriet's birth name was Arminta, which is a given name in Hebrew meaning lofty, noble, or elevated character and spirit. I want to play a video on Harriet just so y'all know when I'm saying that she knew she was Israel, these are her ancestors, or these where she come from, and they'll tell you the same thing. With a video play? Can you play it?
Descendants. My family is direct descendants from Harriet Tubman, and she's from the same area this tribe is visiting Philadelphia from, and so we had to come and worship with you guys today, and we're super excited. It's just a thrill right now to be a part of this whole celebration.
And so, brother and sister, what was Harriet Tubman's name before she changed her name to Harriet, and what significance does that have to us as Hebrews?
Her name was, before she changed her name after she ran away, her name was Araminta Ross, and Araminta is a Hebrew name. Her family knew that they were from the Ashanti tribe, and which is now part of Ghana, and that they were Hebrew. They did have Hebrew names before they were in slavery.
Thank you.
For her to have that Hebrew name, remember she's in the 1800s. So if her family knew, that means her family before her knew, that family before her knew. So that was passed down generationally. So it's not like they just picked it up or learned it from somewhere else. They learned it because we knew exactly who we were when we came over here. Everybody understand? You give me the next slide. So now, as they see all these rebellions and all of that, then you start seeing, it said this, I got this from an article, it says the shocking slave Bible. Now, remember earlier when the Christians were saying they wanted to bring their form of Christianity, but the rebels wasn't rocking with that. So now, when they did produce their form of Christianity, they would have the parts that were deleted out of the Bible. It says the Bible used by the slave masters in the early 1800s is quite different than the one in the pews today. The biggest thing is missing in the typical King James has 66 books. This one contains the Old Testaments or all of the parts about 14 books. So it went from 66 to 14. 66 to 14, because a lot of them is about the vengeance that's going to come to this place. So they take them out. Explains Anthony Smith, Associate Curator of the Bible and Religion in America. It says Bibles like this, along with the catechisms, were used to push a specific message to enslaved people. So when people try to tell you the Bible made people be slaves, no. The white man's modifying of the Bible. That's one of the reasons why we don't use anything outside of the KJV. Not that King James was special. A lot of people get caught on that. I can't help it that the Bible is called KJV. Only thing I do know is that the translation of that version closely matches the Hebrew and the Greek. It could have been called Donald. It could have been called anything. Before that, it was like the Bishop's Bible had tons of different names. That one is just the last closest version. Anything that comes after that is a more bastardized version of English. That's all. So now it says it starts off with the creation story. You get the creation story. Then it jumps to Joseph getting sold into slavery by his brothers and how that ends up being a good thing. And then it says, and then how do you get sold and then that ends up being a good thing? I don't understand that. It says, then we skip over the Israelites in slavery in Egypt and then being let out. So because they knew when they was reading and seeing how the Israelites was enslaved and then they came out from the Most High, they took that out of the Bible. That's the version that they gave us, not the truth. Don't let nobody scare y'all from the Bible. Bible is the one blueprint. As Khalid Muhammad said, I love Khalid. Those that know me know I love Khalid. And Khalid said, and for those that don't know, Khalid Muhammad was beginning to come to classes at One West. That's why you would see his doctrine change. His doctrine changed from not rocking with the Bible or rocking with Christ to saying Christ was a black man with the afro, with the woolly hair. He was literally listening to us, and he said the Bible was a blueprint for black people's salvation because he knew it was the truth. Now imagine if a strong brother like that would have never got killed and was stayed in them classes. Y'all be thinking, now I ain't no conspiracy theorist, but if he were to be alive, he would have not stayed a Muslim. He would not have stayed. It'd be impossible for him to do it. Keep going. The next slide. Now, it says about 90% of the Old Testament is missing and 50% of the New Testament is missing. Yeah. Put it another way, there are 1,189 chapters in the standard Protestant Bible. This Bible contains 232. Good night. That's like 2%, something like that. It says one verse that was removed was taken from Galatians 3 and 28, reading, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male or female, but all are one in Mashiach Yahushua. Now, the bond or free is why they took that out. Because you show that to the slave, and he's going to say, well, if there's no difference between the bond and free, there should be no difference between you and me. I don't rap. It just ended up rhyming like that. Salaki. The abridged Bible was sure, however, to keep verses that promoted the institution of slavery, like Ephesians 6 and 5, which reads, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh. It was intended for use among enslaved Africans in the British West Indies, which is modern day Caribbean. So Jamaica, Barbados, and Antigua is where these type of Bibles was pushed. Next slide. The shifts. So now how was they able to accomplish to get us to follow the Christianity that we have today? As I said in the beginning, if y'all was paying attention, when they want to push something on you, who do they give you? Who knows? Who was paying attention? Korah? That's he paying attention. But who do they give you? That's true. But who do they give you when they want to give you something? The preacher or a black man. The black man, and it got to be a prominent one. It can't just be a low-level one. So when that cat get big, that's who they use. He cannot, like Margaret Sanger with that Planned Parenthood specifically said, we can't be the face of Planned Parenthood because if we go telling this black woman to kill her baby, it's not going to work. But the preacher and the nurse, they're the face of Planned Parenthood up until this day. Whether it's Jesse, Al, every preacher says a woman has the right to choose. Nobody, and it's interesting behind that because nobody ever said this woman should be taught how to choose a man. They teach a woman has, like the baby. I remember Barack Obama when he was legalizing abortion, he said, I don't want to make a woman suffer from a mistake, as if to make it seem like the baby is the mistake. I would imagine letting the rod go inside you from a man you wouldn't want to have a baby by the mistake. So maybe I need to counsel my daughter to make sure she don't choose the wrong man, or help this sister so or the sister should say, let me think before I sleep with this man. But the child can't be the mistake. You know, when you have sex, a baby can happen. Matter of fact, a baby can only happen if you're ovulating. So it's not a mistake when you have the baby. It's a mistake at who you're choosing. Because you know you don't want to have a baby with him, so why sleep with him? That's for male and female. Like we both lack the moral compass when we choose who we sleep with. You understand? So now the face of Planned Parenthood was that. The face of the drugs was who? It was not Ronald Reagan. We always talk about Ronald Reagan. He the one flooded America with drugs. But we glorified Frank and Alpo and Rich Porter and all of them. And so when we see them riding down in their Bentleys and they fly cars and we glorifying them, and then our mama ain't home, we don't think that it's Frank's fault. That is Nicky Bond's fault. Or whatever famous drug dealer was in your neighborhood that your mama ain't in the house or your daddy ain't in the house. We don't think it's their fault. We blaming Ronald Reagan, which we should blame Ronald Reagan. But we got to blame the drug dealer too. Because those freedmen that we read about, they wouldn't sell the drugs. The drug of that day was Christianity, and they was against that drug. So we supposed to be against that drug too. So what was the change? So here we go. We got Martin Luther King, greatest preacher to ever live in America for white people, but the worst or the terrorist for black people. So it says Dr. King had read Gandhi But at that point, he had not accepted. Now, I actually, this was some new information I actually discovered. It says he hadn't accepted pacifism as a way of life. Pacifism is a form where you don't believe in violence under any circumstances. You will not retaliate. You just get your ass whooped and you go home. That's what you believe. That's pacifist. All right. So you out there getting your ass whipped, you a pacifist. Salaki. Now, I'm not a pacifist, Salaki. So now, and so when Rustin arrived in Montgomery, Rustin is Bayard Rustin. Who is Bayard Rustin? Who knows? Say again? Not you, Abaji, the brother right there. He was a flaming, not just flaming homosexual, flaming open homosexual. He wasn't a homosexual that was on the low. They knew he was a homosexual when he met him. You understand? Which also goes into Christianity. Who's the preacher's number one sidekick? The homosexual. Because he's in charge of one of the greatest pieces of Christian church, the music. Which I wish I had that slide next because I can go into the music part. So remind me to say that part again. The homosexual is the greatest part to the pastor. But now, Bayard Rustin, it was Bayard Rustin and a few other pastors who encouraged Dr. King to accept the pacifist way of life. Dr. King actually wasn't about pacifism at first. I think I got it in here. I'm sorry. I didn't read that part. It said when Rustin arrived in Montgomery, Dr. King's home was full of guns. Dr. King actually wasn't trying to be a pacifist till the homo got him. Don't let them homos get close to y'all. Homos get close to y'all. Never know what you're going to be doing up in there. So now, it was Bayard. So I'm sorry. So at the urging of Rustin, pacifism and nonviolence will become the cornerstones of the civil rights movement. A homosexual can never lead you to freedom. Y'all want to know why we bang on Kemet so hard? Because they're homosexual, period. Nubians, homosexual. Christian church, homosexual. Islam, damn near homosexual too. All of them, homosexual. And we'll always be against them. Y'all want to know why we focus on that? Because homosexuality emasculates black men. It makes you weak. And in order for us to survive anything, we have to be strong black men. And strong black men would never tolerate a homosexual, period. I don't know not one that would. So now, I gave the definition of pacifism. I said it's when you let you get your ass whipped, but let me give the technical term: pacifism. The belief that any violence, including war, is unjustifiable under any circumstances. The reason why he had guns in his house, because he was following after Gandhi. Now, Gandhi's a heathen, but Gandhi didn't get his freedom by being a pacifist. That's what made him put the guns in the house. The homo was what made him take the guns out the house. Give me the next slide. Oh, now, being that I was talking about Kemet and their gayness, I get 1 point to show you how Kemet is just as gay as Christianity. This video I'm about to play, Bayard Rustin, when I was looking up the Bayard Rustin, I came across a cat. What's the name, cat? Is that Bobby Hemmett? Bobby Hemmett, an African cat that be talking against the Bible, but he said something where he don't have a problem with Bayard Rustin assisting Martin Luther King. And in African culture, they call gay people something special. So I'm going to play a video for you. And then if you want to be Kemet after this, Lord be with you. Go ahead and play that. Wait, pause for a second. So like Bayard Rustin, and play some and then I'll talk about it. Play
about the gatekeepers and the gatekeepers in the aspect of the homosexuality, or just say gay. And you first hear this, you go, oh man, that's some bullshit. But then again, on the other hand, if you just study the history of us just being in this country, some of the people that was key in our revolution and liberation.
What you're going to find out is Bayard Rustin wasn't the only homosexual that they was rocking with. Keep going.
Was gay or, bisexual. So this means we need to look real close into this type of thing and say, because we're not talking about religion here. Religion, tells you all this. We're not into this right and wrong and do and don't. We're not into this right and wrong and do and don't. We're not into this right and wrong and do and don't.
We're not into right or wrong, do or don't. How can you have any nation without a moral compass at all? All these different religions, and Kemet is no different, Christianity is no different. What moral code do they have? Not one. You can do what you want. And that's what he's saying about gay people. So Kemet or African culture, just like the Christian church, you can have a gay leader. Can we have a gay leader? Who gonna let the gay, anybody in here gonna let the gay man rule him? We have to escort y'all out here tonight. Play that game, play.
You know, when you really look at this type of thing, and I had to really look at these things, because what we're dealing with now, we're dealing with this goddess, Venus, which is a god of the heart chakra. So they don't deal on morality and these social structures. They deal on what motherfucker got the light.
The light. So if you shining, that's why they love Tyler Perry. Because he got what? The light. Do y'all think it's any surprise that the feminine black man has the light? Why do you think he has the light? Because it's the white man's desire that all of y'all have that light. And the Kemet world wants you to have that light too. And if you have that light, they're going to follow you. That's why when you look at the leadership in Kemet and Christianity, aren't they all feminine? Like, who looks masculine to y'all? I won't even name them. You know who they are. But the leaders in Christianity, when you look at them, you say, man, that cat looks feminine. Well, the leaders in Kemet looks just as feminine as Christianity, and you can be whatever you want in Kemet too. The red, black, and green flag encompasses the blacks, the Indians, and the Irish. So when they have that red, black, and green flag, just know they letting white people in too. They're not separate. Like, they'll fool you today and say, oh, I'm black power, black power, black power, but always go to the origin. It's no different than when they try to parade to us, well, this is white Jesus. You can go to the origin of our records and so, no, that's not Jesus. That's Caesar Borgia. So when we go to the root of what that red, black, and green is about, that's not about black people coming together. That's about blacks, Indians, and white people coming together. And when you put the white man together, it destroys you. It's no different. Keep playing.
In here, because there's people like it's, and I said, let me think about this, because it was Kwame too when he said that the white gays, because everything is political with them, because they're trying to get a political structure. They came to him and said, we want you to head up the gay thing, because some of our people getting killed with the gay bashing. He said, well, I can't do that. He said, why? He said, because that's not my culture. They said, what do you mean by that? He said, look, we knew that James Baldwin was gay, but he was helping us in the struggle.
Right.
And nobody tripped. Because when the shit came down, black people was humane enough to go say, look, does that shit really matter? See what I'm saying?
He said, because of our struggle, does it really matter if a gay man is in charge? If you have a gay man in charge, what's that going to do besides what the white man wants it to do? Imagine if, I won't do that to none of y'all here. So imagine if you go to another place far, far, far away from here, and you got a gay man talking to the people like how we talking to y'all here, and then you have the black kids watching this gay man parade. And so you're the father of that kid, the mother of that kid, and then you're sitting down with that kid. What are you telling that kid? That it's okay to be gay. That it's okay to be a homosexual. What did Farrakhan say about Medea? Who knows? Abadia. He said something worse than that. That's true. What did Tyler Perry say about Medea? He said that Medea represented the most important person in our sojourn here in America, which is the black woman. So he's saying a man represents the most important, like the man playing a black woman is the most important black woman in our sojourn in America. That's why Islam is just as gay as Kemet and just as gay as Christianity. Keep playing it.
saying that if you get into this religion, that's mind control.
Yeah.
You dealing with a doctrine that somebody put the, you know what I'm saying? He said, so that ain't our thing. He said, we don't have no
Pause that for 1
problem.
second. It's interesting when they say like religion is mind control. Now, of course, they talking about the Bible, right? But isn't what he doing mind control too? He's telling, like, mind control is weird to me because when they say like you brainwash and stuff like that, everybody listens to something. Doesn't matter what it is. If you go learn to be a doctor, how to do heart surgery, you're listening to someone tell you how to do heart surgery. So is that mind control? No. Somebody has information that you don't. And so you're able to go there and get that information from them. So our mind control is the Bible. So am I mind controlled by the Most High? You goddamn right. I'm mind control. And being mind controlled by the Most High allow me to forgive my brother, my sister, build other brothers up, XYZ. So now, should we follow the mind control that says, don't be a homosexual, don't be a lesbian, be a brother? Or should we follow the mind control that says, be a homosexual, be a lesbian? Don't matter as long as, that's like, if there's nothing wrong with following a homosexual because he has the light, then there's nothing wrong with following that drug dealer because he has the light. What do drug dealers do? When drug dealers making money, what do? They give away free food. Like in every movie, I know in New Jack City they did it, American Gangster they did it. You see the drug dealer giving out free turkeys, or it's Christmas, they giving out free toys, or they might resurrect some park or something like that. And what that does is it desensitizes you from the problems that they're causing. So if you could be a homosexual as long as you got the light, then you could be the drug dealer too. You could be the pastor that's convincing our babies to kill, convincing our women to commit abortion, that's murdering our people to the tune of almost $500,000 a month. That's okay too, because they got the light. See the hypocrisy that comes? So we're all controlled, but we should be controlled by the Most High because he put his name on us. He said the children of Israel is his firstborn. So we're supposed to be controlled by that. How do you get controlled by that? You read Work from Men. Ezekiel's a man. Jeremiah is a man. Hosea is a man. All of these are men that control us. Now you could be controlled by them, or you could be controlled by Bobby Hemmett, where he tell you let the homosexual in. Keep going, keep playing the card.
Like that. You see what I'm saying? We went up now, and I said, well, that's interesting. James Baldwin. Then Byron Rustin. Here's the man who basically was the architect of the whole March on Washington. Not only that, people don't understand the role he played. He had to train Martin Luther King, all the trained people. He had to train them on how to go into Mississippi and Alabama and not get killed.
If I could, this ain't number 5 say. Now they got the homo training them. Good Lord.
Because this so-called gay person did it 10 years and 15 years before, in the 40s. When it was unheard of. This was before they even killed Emmett Till. He was going down in the Mississippi and Alabama doing protests, and he had to show them how to go in. This is the man who taught Martin Luther King and them how to go into Alabama, Mississippi, and not get their ass killed. And he's a gay man. So you got to look at that and say, well, man, what the Spirit is saying about this? The Spirit is saying, look, this shit here is not about.
Wait, the spirit of gayness is telling them this. No, you keep playing this.
What a person is doing physically. It's about who got the light. So in the Africans, they was talking about the gatekeepers. So in the Africans, they was talking about the gatekeepers.
What were they talking
So
about?
in the Africans, they was talking about
Africa,
the gatekeepers.
They was talking about the gatekeepers. Keep going.
Gatekeepers, they say, is supposed to be bisexual. And what Malodoma Tomei is saying, and all, it's also in the Voodoo Gnostic workbook. It costs about $400, $500. Get it off the internet now, or you can order it. The Voodoo Gnostic workbook. The gatekeepers, and I'm heterosexual.
Why do you think he said he heterosexual? He really gay too. The only reason he got to say I'm heterosexual because he don't realize I'm gonna talk about this gay shit too long now. Let me remind him I done got comfortable in it. Let me remind him I'm heterosexual. I'm heterosexual. He probably had his fingers crossed or something like that. But remember, this is African culture where they believe bisexual is what you're supposed to be in order to lead the people. Because let him tell you. Keep playing it.
Gatekeepers, they were saying, was people, because them having the bisexual nature, they were able to see things from another perspective. You see what I'm saying? And so now, coming from religious training and all this other shit like this and all, yes, you can find a lot of things. I ain't with all that kind of shit, but when you look on the spirit realm and on this realm where they're talking about this new goddess, where it ain't based on what you do physically and how you is based on what your heart is. Then you got to understand that when they talk about that, they're talking about there's a reason why they got them as a certain amount of gatekeepers.
Thank you. I didn't want to sodomize y'all verbally too much. But if y'all listen and pay attention to that, the scripture, he said it don't matter what you do physically, it matters what is in your heart. The scriptures say the heart is deceitful above all. Who could know it? We can't make up our moral code. We can't. Now, when you think about the Bible is the only set of laws that I've ever read where that moral code is not personal. What I mean by not personal, it's not something where you could say, when this man wrote it, he wrote it to benefit him. When you read the laws in the Bible, those are laws that only a God, a real God, can come up with. What Bobby Hemmett is saying, and just like everybody in Kemet is saying, it doesn't matter what you are physically, only what you are spiritually. That's why they will always have some. When you see them homosexuals in the Christian church in Kemet, just know that those are the gatekeepers that they encourage to be in there. So now that is that also represents. So now in the shift that we have Martin Luther King. What else was Martin Luther King about? He was about civil rights, about everybody coming together, about us going into white neighborhoods, about us going into white restaurants, about us going into white school systems. So then you had Brown versus Board of Education. You had all these different things that as they slowly coming in, being pushed by our religious leaders, which as I said in the beginning, when we read in the beginning, what did it say about the preacher? The preacher was the quintessential or the cornerstone of the Black community. It's who you went to for counsel, for advice, for salvation, for redemption. It's who you went to for all those things. And the greatest preacher that Black people believe they have ever had taught them that you're nothing unless you join white people. You're nothing unless you let the white man beat your ass and do nothing about it. And God's going to love you for that. So we went from all of them militant Black men that I read about to the weakest Black man that they could ever find. Give me the next one. You didn't see the one with Betty in there, Tazaryach? Betty, for those that don't know who Betty is, before I read the Black Dollar, Betty is the purpose of. I knew Betty was in there. That was before. That must have been before the slide. How could we forget Betty Moitz? Who knows who Betty Moitz is? Anybody? Betty Moitz is Martin Luther King's first woman who was white in college. This Betty Moitz, in Bearing the Cross, quoted a close friend. Sorry, let me get a background on Betty. When Martin Luther King was in college, his first girlfriend was a white woman. And he loved that white woman. Loved that white woman so much to where in the beginning he wouldn't be seen in public with her, but then he didn't care no more. And it's only because he wanted to be a political Black leader and they would frown upon him being with that white woman that he separated from her. So what did Martin Luther King start pushing? We got to all come together. His hope was that eventually he would be able to openly just be with a white woman. So Coretta Scott King wasn't even his first love. This devil was his first love. The white woman. It says, in Bearing the Cross, quoted a close friend and mentor of King's at the time, Reverend Barber, who said the relationship had left King as a man with a broken heart that never recovered. That's why he would get with them white women. What did he say? What the white woman had to call him in that room? Nigger. I can only imagine what him and Betty was doing in that room. But his love for white women is what destroyed us. Y'all notice we never read anything from them rebellious Black men that said anything about loving white people. But they brought out every atrocity and what they've done to us and how the only way we can get it is fighting back. And then came the greatest traitor that not only loved white people, accepted homosexuals, but joined us white women too. Now it says 8 years later, this is what King said. This is how you know he was regretting. Now 8 years later, he with Coretta already. But 8 years later, King himself was saying in a sermon that there is more integration in the entertaining world and in sports arenas than there is in the Christian church. So what did Martin go about doing? Integrating the church too. when it was better when we were separate from the black church. Excuse me, from the white church. We were never supposed to be joined. Like, in order to survive Christianity, you have to know what was our destruction, which all goes back to the same thing. Daniel Allah had did an interview with me. This was a while ago, and in the interview, he said something I never even paid attention to until he actually said it. He said, as he watched the miseducation series that I had, it seemed like it all led up to this lecture. Meaning, as I did the integration in lecture, as I did the miseducation of the black woman, the house divided, all of it eventually leads back to Christianity. Why were we divided? Because we started loving white people. In a nutshell, that's why we was divided. Give me the next slide. The most important thing besides the Most High, the scriptures say wisdom is a defense, and what else is a defense? Money. That's why you're supposed to pay your goddamn tithes. You can't, listen, we can love the Most High and come together and sit, but as the scriptures say, wisdom is the defense and money is the defense. And they like to tell you that the ghetto is poor. The ghetto is not poor. Two people make money in the ghetto, the church and the drug dealer. The drug dealer makes, like, for drug addicts that not have no money, they get high every day. You know how you know they getting high every day? Because the drug dealer making all the money in the world, and the Christian church making all the money in the world. This is a story from, I think this came out maybe in 2009 or something like that. It might say, 2013. Said the black church has collected over $420 billion since 1980. Can you imagine if them rebellious freedmen had that $420 billion? Can you imagine if the Israelites had that $420 billion? We wouldn't be castrated as black people. Them churches is big as hell. You ever see the size of them churches? David, you walk in there, you be like, God damn. Down there, break your neck, like leaning back, trying to look up to the top. You telling me they can't house the homeless in there? You can't break them pews down, make some beds, make some cots so we can feed people? If they really cared for the people, that's what you're supposed to do. Now, it says some claim that the black church isn't doing enough to assist with the economic, social, and political progress of the black community. The Michigan Chronicle recently took a look at research and reported that over $420 billion have been donated to the black church as of 2013, a figure which averages out to at least $12 to $13 billion a year. Your pastors get rich while you starve, while you die. Mainstream politicians and black community leaders are demanding a better accounting of the return on investment, because that's why they're giving that money. They're giving that money because they think if I give my money to the pastor, God will return and give me what? A blessing. Because that's what the pastor tell you. But God, thank you. But God is not going to give you nothing. Proverbs 28:9 says, when you turn your ear from the law, your prayer is an abomination. So you can give the pastor $1 million and he'll do nothing for you if you're not keeping his commandments. 2 Peter 2:3 says, with fiend words, we become merchandise. You are the merchandise for the pastor. You will always be the merchandise. You'll be the next hustle. You'll be the next thing. Creflo Dollar asked for $65 million for a plane. And even though they complain, he got that $65 million. Nigga got the plane. Nigga flying and cruising. And if he loved black people, he would be with them. And they all talk about Christ or Yahushua. Yahushua stayed with the poor. Yahushua said the foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And this nigga was waking the dead, making the blind see, the crippled walk. He doing all kind of miracles. He should get the money, right? He should get it all. He didn't ask for that, but he still did what was required that the Most High said, but your pastors won't do what is required that the Most High said. So now it says, meanwhile, legions of faithful churchgoers defend their pastors. Even though they see the pastor with the Rolls Royce while they at the bus stop, hey, that's my pastor right there. You think the pastor will pull over and say, hey, man, come on, get up in here with me? Hell no. The fact that he want a private plane says he don't want to be with y'all. Why have the private? Why not get a chartered plane that can hold about 200 people and say, we're going to go to church together in style? It still would be off, but he'd have a better argument if he put more people on there with him. He getting that plane just for himself. and you defend them. When Eddie Long molested them kids, he was defended by the churchgoers because you get an affinity. Like, you should never feel like if my leader is doing something wrong, if I admit that he's doing something wrong, it's a bad thing. It's not. It'd be nothing wrong with making Eddie Long be accountable. But what happens is because you put your faith in him, you defend him because you look at it like you look at it like you're defending yourself. So if he's wrong, then I'm wrong. And you don't never want to be wrong when you should be wrong. The scriptures say, why not take wrong? Why not take low? Why do you have to be right about everything? Maybe you being wrong will actually make you better, will actually make you grow. But a pastor can't be wrong, not even to the churchgoers. It says, and accuse their detractors of applying. And here's the part that trips me out the most. It says, and accuse the detractors of applying a double standard that ignores the largeness of wealthy white televangelists. When we fail out as black people is if we make our measuring stick what white people do. Because white people don't follow the law. You know what I'm saying? Like we always say, well, why does the black man have, like with Bill Cosby, for example, why does he have to go to jail when whatever that white guy was, he didn't go to jail? Why would, number one, why do you make your measuring stick of evil or morality with a devil that's not moral? You cannot do that. You should expect Bill Cosby to go to jail, but the white man to go free, because this is his kingdom. He's not going to lock himself up, but he will lock you up for trying to fit in his society. We should condemn any man that joins the white man, and when he gets caught, what do you expect? You should, like Rick Ross went to jail. Now, he wasn't the face of the CIA, but he was the one that was working for him, and then he goes to jail. CIA don't go to jail. And we like, well, why the white man ain't get locked up too? No, nigga, why did he not sell the drug? So when they saying compared to the white televangelist, the televangelist is robbing the people. So you gonna rob the people because the white man is robbing the people? The freed men that I showed y'all in the beginning would have never done that. The freed men that I showed y'all in the beginning, if you'd have gave that money to them, they would have freed the people. That was their whole mission in life. They was free. They could have not worried about another slave in life. Why am I saying that? Because we are free. We could not have to worry about another slave out here in life. We could walk outside these streets, outside after this lecture or whatever, and just be our own Israelites. We could have our own truth, keep it all to ourselves, or we could be with like our rebellious ancestors. And not only do we want to be free, but we want everybody else to be free. That's the whole point of surviving Christianity. You surviving Christianity. We're all the survivors in here right now. We're the survivors. The difference is we're going to save everybody else that are dying. You understand? Give me the next slide. Damn, they could have ended it there, but I want to keep one more slide. So where does the money go? The question then turned into the whereabouts of the money donated and whether it had been spent to help progress. Leadership Network releases reports every year with current trends in mega churches and data on other churches in general. They find that 7% of churches contain nearly 50% of all churchgoers. Furthermore, they find that nearly 100% of church revenue come from donations. So all the money that the church is like, do you want to say something?
I always hear them saying that you can't escape debt and taxes. I remember how they brought up that they were going to be audited by the IRS. Mm-hmm. Nothing ever happened. Mm-hmm. You understand?
It don't happen.
Don't hear about that.
You know why it don't happen, sir? Because they do an excellent job pushing the white man's agenda. Why send the pastor to jail when I want this person elected? The pastor gonna get him elected. When I want abortion passed, the pastor gonna get it passed. When I want the drugs to go through, homosexuality to be okay, the pastor's going to let it pass. When I kill a black man, the pastor's going to pacify the people that the homo taught him. The homosexual taught all of Christendom to be pacifists. A homosexual is the birth of Christianity for black people. That's the sad state of America. I think I got a black people. I got one more topic to go over, right? Next slide. You can skip this one. I was going to do the frenzy of shouting, you know, when they be shouting in the church, but I'm going to skip that one. You can skip that one. For decades. Now, the other thing that takes place in the Christian church is homosexuality. I've done a lot of lectures on it. To be honest, I didn't want to do it because it's an ugly subject. What I mean by ugly subject, you got to research gay stuff. I mean, when I did my first no homo, when I did my first no homo lecture, when that was over, I remember me and Katas, I was so happy that that day was over because we had to watch Empire. To watch Empire, had to gather videos and pictures and images of gay men trying to find, and you know, when you researching it, you never know what's gonna pop up. So I had to suffer greatly for y'all. I want y'all to know that. Give me a round of applause. So it was terrible. But again, as a freed man, we have to endure the pains and sufferings to help the slaves come up out of that. So we have to endure looking that up because as even this says, it says for decades, victims of child sexual abuse in Baptist church have been silenced by shame, false instruction, and the bully tactics of the church leaders. Because that same church leader, because he was led by a homosexual, becomes a homosexual himself. And because the preacher has such power, he can abuse your daughter and you'll get mad at your daughter. He can abuse your son and you'll get mad at your son. So somebody has to expose the homosexuality that goes on in that church, the homosexuality that goes on in the home, because that's the one thing that the Black community hides like it's a badge of honor. Everybody got some cousin or uncle or auntie that was molested and nobody said nothing about it. And I could never understand why that is. And it's like that child gets destroyed. So them women you see strippers, I guarantee you, they were molested. All of them. 100% of them were molested. That's why they stripping. And nobody protected them. Nobody defended them. So they become just like that. It says more egregiously, abuse survivors have been taught that scriptures require them to forgive their perpetrator. Why do you think the pastors would teach the victims that they have to be forgiven? Because white Christianity taught them that same thing. That's the ripple effect. White Christianity said, no matter what we do to you, you have to forgive us. So that pastor that becomes the predator does the same thing his master does. Teach you that you got to forgive me. You know, God said you got to forgive me. Yeah, I took your whole childhood. I took your whole life, but you got to forgive me. So now that child grows up in such a messed up state of affairs because he wants to get revenge. He wants to hate the person that raped him. But then he so-called think he loves God because he was given that white version of Christianity. It says these tactics serve to foster an environment of abuse that allows perpetrators to go unpunished. In the Baptist congregation, the pastor and church leaders have enormous power and influence over the lives of the church members, which they do, which technically, like I said, you're supposed to. The Levitical priesthood in the Bible had that same power. So when something would go wrong, they would go to the priest would tell them what to do. And because they believed the priest was from the Most High, they would listen. So they believed that the churchgoers believed the pastors of the Most High. So they thinking he made a mistake and then they're listening to him. Being a leader is a grave responsibility. Being in charge of men is a grave responsibility. It should not be given to anybody, and you should question every leader that you believe in. You believe in a leader, you should question everything about him. And if that leader won't answer your question, that's how you know he's not a leader at all. Because a leader wouldn't have a problem. Oh, you think I stole his money? I ain't steal it. Hey, I don't have to take money. Any charge that's levied against you, you should be able to stand up. I think maybe I got picked for this task because I remember like a couple of years ago, somebody tried to say I did that, right? And so I had to come out and fight it and say that I didn't do it, which I didn't have a problem doing it at all because I've never done it. But that's what a leader is supposed to do. As soon as the charge comes, boom, you just face it. And I ain't have to say nothing about doing no goddamn stone. You ain't got to say that. You can just say, no, I didn't do it. Never have at all. So now, in most Baptist churches, sexual predators gravitate to churches because Christians are taught to submit to an authority in an atmosphere that encourages trust. because they start giving you them scriptures. They start saying, I'm a man of God. They put that cloak on, they put that suit and tie on, they look all professional. And so you become comfortable talking to them. You married women, don't get counseled by no pastor. He'll be banging you in about a week. Guarantee it. If that's too vulgar, I apologize. Says church programs also offer easy access to the children of the parishioners. Many Christians don't know, and this is important. It says many Christians don't know how to distinguish likability and trustworthiness. That's why Jay-Z could be the face. That's why when they want to go for voting, like Sean Combs could say rock the vote, and he could be the face. Because you like him, you believe that he's intelligent, or you believe that he knows what he's talking about because you like the song that he sang, or you like the way he was an actor. Oh, he was such a great actor. He's smart. And we do the same thing with our pastors. Let that pastor perform. Like I always said, my mother brought us to the church. We were scouring churches. My mother would take us to a different church every Sunday. The church we looked for was the one that was the most fun, not the one that taught the truth. So we looking for the choir. Oh, I should do the music that's the frenzy. We was looking for that frenzy. What I mean by the frenzy, when you go into that church, I mean, when I was little, I used to go to my grandmother's church, Central Baptist Church in Jersey City. And in Central Baptist Church, that old ass pastor used to be like, turn to Genesis 3:17. The Lord said, and I used to listen to them. I'm like 6, 7 years old. I go to sleep. My mother, I'm like, Mom, that church is boring. She said, yeah, I think it's boring too. So then my mother started scouring churches. We went to church in Newark, went to church in Jersey City. We ended up finding a church in Newark and on Halsey Street in Newark, New Jersey. And in that church, we went in there, that drummer was playing, the beat was going. I'm like, oh yeah, Mommy, I think I like this church. You see how they singing? You see how they dancing? And the pastor would put on such a show when he used to do that sermon. He used to do that sermon with such showmanship and such power. And then that organ get to playing. He said, man, and I fell in love with that. And so I don't know what he taught about. I couldn't tell you nothing that he taught about. But if Charlie Mae Garrison sung the song, oh, I was in there. Oh, look at Charlie Mae singing. Or Bobby Robin, whoever they was, and they're singing. And that's how we pick, because we like them. But just because you like them don't mean you should trust them. That same nigga that I liked built the church like 3 times, had a building fund 3 times for the church. And I'll never forget, we was giving that building fund money, and this how they seduce you. They put the shit on the wall. They would put like Brother Gas, Brother William, and the dollar amount would start like right here would be 0. Here would be like $200 or $500, and they would color in as you was giving your money. That's how they trick you too, because you don't want to walk in there and see Brother Gas ain't give nothing. So you want your shit colored up. So you coming in there giving your $5 and your $10 and you color. So, oh, look at mine. It's colored all the way up. I done gave him $100. I got that color. And over color, pastor getting rich. And so we building that up. And I never forget, the pastor got us on the land. He actually bought the property, and my mother used to boast on that. She said, see, my pastor ain't like other pastors. We got the building fund, and now we own the land. And we had property. And then he said, we're not going to pay to go to, because we used to rent the church. So we're not going to rent this church. We're going to have church on the land so we could see the progress of it being built. And when we got there, I remember they laid bricks down. The bricks got to about this high, and then it stopped. Dead ass serious. I can't make this up. This is a true story. The bricks got to about this high. Now, this high all the way around. The whole foundation was like laid out about this high in bricks. And then he started having after church meetings. We need more money. We need this money. We need that money. And then, and they getting the money. We seeing the numbers and stuff go up. And then all of a sudden, we off that property. Still getting building fund money though, but we off the property. And I remember my aunt said, she said, I ain't never going there again, because she realized it was a lie. I'm a teenager. I was like 18 or 19 by that time. And then I start seeing exactly what my aunt was always talking about when they say the preachers lie to you. But we like them though. But liking somebody is not trustworthiness. And you'll be so quick to confuse the two just because you like them. Your pastor is going to seduce the hell out of you. I like when they don't like us, but they listen. A lot of them say, I don't like y'all. Y'all too militant. Y'all telling the truth. Even Kyler, when he first was coming to One West, he said, y'all got the truth, but y'all ignorant, is what he said. And the reason why he's saying y'all ignorant, because we rough. It's hard to listen to a UPK man. It's hard. It's hard to listen to a man that come from One West. But when you get past how hard it is and realize why we hard, because the scripture said, press and make a wise man mad, you won't be protected by any man better. You won't feel safer. You won't see a level of brotherhood. You won't see nothing that will build this nation without it. So if you want to know how to survive Christianity, come join the Israelite School of UPK. You'll be good to go. And that, I think that's the last slide, Tazaryach. Is that the last slide? I have one more? Okay. Okay, now it says, well, I kind of covered that. This is talking about the child abuse that takes place or the child molestation. So that concludes this lecture. I apologize for going a half hour over the time, but I will take questions if anybody has any questions. Any questions? I appreciate it. You can cut the light on. That's that fake one. I don't drink that water. So. Any questions? No questions. All right, with that, I'd like to thank y'all for coming out, man. I think they got drinks if you want something to drink. You can always get y'all some Fourth Dimension that's in the back if you want to smell the best you've ever smelled in your life. I thank y'all for coming out. Shalom.